Indianapolis, and live from the racing capital of the world, we welcome you to the summer of virtual IndyCar race. Yes, Redline, Apex, Coanda, plenty of those drivers to take center stage. And I've got my eyes also focused on the iRacing IndyCar community favorites, the likes of Christian Steele and Rob Milechka, recent iRacing Indy 500 winners, and Phil Kraus, the man that loves to build houses here at the Speedway. 6 races, $7,000 on the line, and the most stacked field of IndyCars iRacing has ever seen. 4 champions, iRacing Indy 500 winners, we've got them all, and a stack up behind, and a crash already. Oh, drivers forgetting how to stop racing. It's PS competition and Daniel Lorenzo, they get mixed up. That now make their way down pit lane. Your race leader has done 24 laps. Costantini, Veyron going to be following in behind.
Chase is going to be on. Coitert is likely going to take the race lead here.
Where does the 17 emerge though in relation to the oncoming up to speed traffic directly in front of the battle that we've been following? So Coanda, Veyron, the number 9, 27 laps to go, side in front of
The race lead here because Veyron, Leo, and Costantini all down pit lane simultaneously.
Veyron, Leo, Costantini, and then Zandarin and Michael Johnny release themselves from the limiter. And here comes the move for the lead. Leo jinxing the inside, down Holman Boulevard, and slides his way back to the point. 75 laps complete. Eduardo Leo, the best that Indianapolis saw across of the race. From the racing capital of the world to the Alabama roller coaster, welcome to round 2 of the VCO IndyCar Challenge powered by Open Wheels. It was Eduardo Leo that ran his way to the race victory at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, but now with qualifying on deck and bumping at the forefront of drivers' mind, ready to do this once again. Welcome along to VCO Esports and to RaceSpot TV. Arjuna Kankipati alongside of Ewan O'Leary. Ewan, it's been a while since you and I, we've commentated on some great IndyCar racing, but I think you and I, we both know the challenge that Barber will bring to the drivers with next time bringing the ovals to the forefront for drivers.
Yeah, absolutely. It's another time for road courses, and the Alabama roller coaster is certainly an apt nickname, I suppose, for this circuit. The rise of balls really giving this circuit its character. So many tricky turns around here as well. Going to be interesting to see how they can actually overtake one another throughout those. That's to come a little bit later on, but qualifying is going to be quite a spectacle.
And let's take a look at the schedule quickly. Of course, I mentioned the trip to the short ovals next time out when we make our way to the Iowa Speedway. Very much looking forward as well to our trips on over to Belle Road America and then Auto Club to move it on forward. Let's talk about how qualifying is going to play out though, because you and the field of 42 split up into 3 groups and the fastest 11 per group making it forward to the race.
Yeah, well, that is supposed to be how it works. It worked like that in Indianapolis as well, but then there were some adjustments afterwards with people towing back to pit lane and so on, and then carrying on. So we'll see how that goes this time round, whether anyone gets just excluded from qualifying, and we'll see who makes it through. But there are the groups. It is sorted out, and there's some very, very talented groups, I would say, and it'd be difficult to make the top 11 for sure.
And you take a look at how the groups are split on up. It's done by championship standings. The thing you'll note is a couple of drivers that are missing through that field. Take a look at the points. A couple of the reserve and invited drivers from round 1 making their presence known in the back half after qualifying their way into the race. But a couple of those red line drivers, Eduardo Leo, new red line driver included, missing this round of the championship to focus on the iRacing 24 Hours of Spa, which you and I just finished our first stint of commentating on.
Yeah, absolutely. So that would be, they thought, too much to balance, and so they've decided not to come. There will be, I mean, if I'm not mistaken, there will be some people doing both this weekend, and so that's it's sort of them dividing their focus a little bit, but you would imagine that their only focus throughout Saturday so far will have been this race. I wouldn't imagine anyone will have been thinking about Spa before this event, if indeed they are doing both.
I think there's a couple. I know Christian Steele's trying to do the double, but I think more as a bit of a fun outing more than anything else. Ready to go then for the first of the 3 qualifying groups. And we saw a quick look at how those groups are all stacked on up. There's some strong names in this first group that are getting ready to rumble. Peter Berryman, Phil Kraus at the forefront, I think, of the minds, but keep an eye out for maybe the likes of Jose Soria as well, who's fresh off a second place finish on the streets of Long Beach in the opening round, Ewan, of the, I've got to get it right, IndyCar Butt Kicker iRacing qualifying series.
Well done. I'll leave that to you. Yeah, good start for him there. Not a good start for him, though, in this series. Didn't actually compete in the race in the end, despite putting through a time that was quick enough due to getting excluded. So he will need to remember the rules and go quick enough to make the top 11 this time.
You can see the countdown clock just waiting for the first group of drivers to be released into pit lane, and like you mentioned, there was a little bit of chaos and drama amongst some of these drivers in the first time of asking. Let's hope that they've all got it figured out the second time around. All going to see them on the alternate compound of tyre though. Fun thing about these qualifying sessions, Ewan, no toes back to pit lane. If you crash, if you bin it off the track, that's your session done.
Yeah, and we saw last time that Jaden Munoz nearly found that out firsthand by turning the engine off, not being able to turn it back on again. Nearly got out in qualifying as a result, but was eventually reinstated due to the exclusions we were talking about a few moments ago. So yeah, it was quite a topic of conversation, but I actually really like the move to do that. I think it makes it more real as possible, and I always like it when a series implements those rules that just add to the realism a little bit.
And well, I think one thing to keep an eye on is spacing around this track. They only get 7 minutes per group, so we're not talking much time by any means, so you need to make every lap count, and if you do want a fresh set of alternate compound tyres, you've got to manually bring yourself back to pit lane. So I think realistically, Ewan, you're talking 2 runs, maybe a flying lap each run at most, really.
Yeah, it's not going to be very many, even though there is a short lap around here. You're right, there's not very much time either. This will be a circuit unlike at Road America, where you will be able to do that. At Road America, I'd imagine they'd go out probably for 2 flying laps, and that'll be pretty much it. I wouldn't imagine you'll be seeing much pit stops throughout that session when we get to that around 4, I believe it is. So it's better than there, I suppose, but it is still pretty tight for time.
And so it is going to be Adam Crane, Jacob Oster, first couple of cars across the line here in this opening group, as Peter Berryman, I think one other driver to watch. I mentioned Jose Soria second, Peter Berryman third in that opening round of the qualifying series. Oh, it's a bit wide for Berryman. He holds on to it.
Just about, yeah, this is it making its way down the hill now in tricky braking zone down at turn 5. Tricky traction zone as well, as you're making your way around the left-hander all at the same time. Then into this famous section of corners, slightly strange section of corners to be honest, at 7, jumping over the curbs, and then through at 8 as well. And then the high-speed section, the entertaining part of this circuit towards the end.
This is where as well with Dirty Air, that's a real struggle. Going to be interesting in racing trim, alternate strategies maybe, primary versus alternate tyres, how that will all play out. Just over the crest though, watch the car unload, very neutral for Berryman, and look how much he's closed up to the back of Adam Crane, who really backed off on his attempt, so he's setting up for a second flyer. That first one's now been compromised. Oster first to the line, Berryman next, and Berryman quicker by 0.7 of a second.
Yeah, that's the benchmark really that's been set. I wouldn't say the lap time of Jacob Oster or indeed Adam Crane representative particularly, as we've got pit stop here. Is that Joshua Chin already into the pit lane? Slightly odd, but if you've made a mistake on the first lap, you might as well come in anyway.
I think it was Phil Kraus, but yeah, no, I think he's done the opposite of Crane, decided that let's not continue out on track, let's come back in. That's Oscar Mangan, who no longer flies the flag for Altus Esports. Instead, he's got a quiet little purple number that's seen him on his first race in the series. He missed the opening round, slide to 3rd. He's in front of Pablo Espez in the Wave Italy car, but right now 10 times on the board. Wilson Neto, Ryan Barneveld and Phil Kraus, the 3 drivers yet to set times, and I don't see Barneveld out on track.
No, but we've only got 10 times in for the moment, so I guess all the 10 drivers who have set times would like the session to end now, to be honest, if they're trying to make it. Peter Berryman especially, who is currently going fastest of anybody after a decent time of things at Indianapolis, went for the slightly odd strategy of taking 2 alternate tyre stints at the very start of the race. Don't know if he'll do that again, but he did get 6th place from it last time out.
Jose Soria has just jumped to the top, so there was more time on the second lap than I think anyone would have expected. It's a very, very good time for him. He's done a 1:06.728. Andrew Marquez jumps in front of Brian Carey. Adam Crane leapfrogs forward to 4th as, again, drivers down pit lane going to take their service. Might just click the button to request a fresh car on iRacing. You can see it's a busy time down on that pit lane. And Peter Berryman off and away once again.
Yeah, and he's got enough time to make his way around and then for another flying lap to try and go quickest, because it is about lap time in the end, and at the moment he's even being beat by Jose Soria, never mind about the others in the other groups. He shouldn't be too worried about making it into the race, but you know, Peter Berryman's aiming higher than just making the race.
Phil Krause will be aiming a bit higher as well than where he sits right now. He's just begun what will be his first timed attempt if he can put it all together. And all as we're winding down in this qualifying session, Ryan Barneveld had a technical issue. He's not, I think, going to get a chance to set a lap time. Oh, this is heartbreaking for him as Group 1, couple of minutes left to go.
Yeah, that is really, really disappointing. And isn't it weird? Wasn't Barneveld racing from someone else's place last time out?
Phil Ness.
Yeah, isn't he at his own place now? And now it's going wrong. That's a very weird turn of fate for him, and a really disappointing one as well. He would have been looking forward to trying to do a bit better than what he did at Indianapolis. Not that it was too bad, but it was only 23rd, and he'll feel probably that he could have done better and could have been done better on today's race.
So Wilson Nadeau also no time. So right now as it sits, battle between Powerslide Motorsports teammates towards the back, because Brian Carey, Wilson Nadeau and Phil Krause all on the bubble. Can Krause put himself in contention? Remember, there's only a 10th between first and second as it sits right now, and the cloud covers come on in. Krause to the line, 1:07.094. He'll put himself up to 4th.
Yeah, it's a decent place to be, but still a few tenths away from where you'd expect to see him. He was on the podium at Indianapolis, of course, even took the lead during the last cycle of pit stops of that race, and for him to only be 4th in this session maybe is a bit lower than he would hope to be. Still only 11 times here.
Yeah, Wilson Nadeau backing off. He's going to get this final attempt, and that will be it, because there's less than 60 seconds to go. You can see, not racing from home either. He's racing from, looks to be a sim setter with, is that an actual McLaren F1 car just sat behind him?
Yeah, looks like it.
It's an emotion rig as well.
Yeah, looks like that sort of late 80s, early 90s car, whatever that one was called. I forgot what it is. But yes, that famous one with the orange nose and the predominantly white McLaren. Very famous indeed, although I can't remember the name of it. Oscar Mangan has gone up to 3rd.
Yep, and he's just behind Peter Berryman, who's now started what will be his final lap. Checkered flag about to fly. Phil Krause, I'm not sure he will get back to the line to see another lap. He will just about see the line because checkered flag has not flown, and he's leapfrogged himself up to 4th. Let's see if that's where he'll end. Marcos Nunez then in the fiercely forward car to the line. He sits in 8th position, and I don't know if he got there in time.
Well, he's pushing on as if he did, so just continue on with this lap time into the final couple of quarters for Brian Carey here now, using the virtual reality up towards the line. What's the time actually going to be for him? Going to need a big improvement here to jump up any positions, and doesn't.
And I don't think it will matter. I think Wilson Nadeau had to return to pit lane. And so with both Barneveld and Nadeau not setting times, top 11 will advance as Jose Soria back around to the line with no improvement of his own. But Peter Berryman goes to top in this first group of the run. It's 1:06.488 that stands on top.
Yeah, that could be very, very difficult to beat for everybody. Just look at the gap that Berryman has got compared to the rest in this group. More than 2 tenths of a second over Jose Soria. And so Peter Berryman has got a great chance of starting on pole for this race.
Looks pretty calm though, doesn't he?
Yeah, well, he doesn't very often look animated, I would say.
Fair.
has been practicing for this for a while, by the way. I know it was months ago when I was down at Apex Racing, the Apex Racing team, or maybe he just drives the IndyCar a lot anyway, but he was just driving the IndyCar on a random Thursday afternoon, I think it was there.
Hey.
There was no reason for it at all, it just was.
You know my opinion on this car, best in iRacing. So he's just, out for a casual drive. Peter Berryman, though, is on top by 2/10, and we'll see where that stacks up relative to groups 2 and 3. He may not end up starting from the pole. Can't wait to find out. Jose Soria, Oscar Mangan, Phil Kraus, and Pablo Espes, rest of the top 5 with Oster, Crane, Nunez, Taylor, and Marquez, all advancing alongside of Brian Carey, just squeaking in with 2 drivers, Ryan Barneveld and Wilson Nadeau, not setting times, one due to technical reasons, the other just not getting the time onto the board, as instantly here comes Group 2, ready to rumble.
Yeah, and they're queuing up at the end of pit lane as well. Not a sight you often see in iRacing. You do in real life, of course, but not on the sim. But you can just see the eagerness that everyone has got, and that's awkward. Somebody towing from the end of pit lane, and then eventually we all get going. But flashes of Indianapolis and Jed Munoz there, right in front of our eyes.
I thought we'd gotten away with that. Anyway, we'll move swiftly on past it, get ready, I should say, for the second qualifying group. This really does move on quickly. 7 minutes for each of the groups. And remember, fast 11 to move on forward. I think only 12 in this group today. A couple of drivers missing, unfortunately. So there's only one who's going to see the short end of the stick, and who will it be? Right now, first out on track in this group is Christian Steele, the 2022 iRacing Indy 500 winner. He's got Cam Dance in the Orbit Motorsport 111, a reserve driver getting his call up relatively late in the day. Although late in the day, it's early in the morning for him. He's, of course, racing from a worlds away. I think it's the best way to put it.
Yes, exactly. From New Zealand, of course. And as you say, it's one of those times in the day where you're not quite sure whether to call it very late evening or very early morning. But it's right in the middle of the night, I think we could call it. And once again, a show of commitment from him to the sim racing course, as he's done for so many years down the years, not only on iRacing but on other sims as well. He has been a prolific sim racer for a very long time, often racing at uninhabitable times in the morning.
Yeah, uninhabitable. Tell me about it. What time did you wake up this morning, Ewan?
7 o'clock.
That's not too bad, actually.
Not too late, no. But I need to wake up at 4 tomorrow, so...
Okay,
so
fair enough.
I was training myself.
I had to get up at 4 today, so, easy come, easy go. So it's going to be a busy day for sim racers. There's some off doing iRacing Indy, iRacing Porsche Cup car qualifying for the World Championship. And of course, 24 Hours of Spa continuing to roll around. And as mentioned, some of these drivers might end up doing the double.
Well, I was doing in my research before this race, I thought Ryan Barneveld was doing the double, but clearly that's not happening anymore.
Good point. I don't think I saw him on social media listed. I see an issue on track. What's happened to Jeff Drake in that number 69 entry? Flying through the S's. Oh, lock it down. No.
Hey! Oh dear, oh dear. Well, he's going to have a big problem there if he can't get that back to pit lane. Not least because he'll only have one lap realistically if he does get back out there, but it's going to be a long trip back to pit lane for him.
Now, I think he did end up limping it back around, so that is a good thing now. David Toth currently fastest in this group, 107.052. Remember, Berryman did a 106.488. So as it lines up right now, Berryman would be in pole, David Toth would be in second. It all comes down to Group 3. Where does it line up in the snake split that will then determine the grid after this? Toth flies his way, over the crest. That's committed. He's pushing for a second lap here.
He certainly is, and sliding his way through the final couple of corners as well. Goodness me, he's right on the ragged edge at the moment. Out over the line now for David Toth, who does improve to a 106.7. He is going to be one of the contenders today. Don't forget that he lost a lot of track position in the caution at Indianapolis. Probably could have done better than the 4th place he ended up getting.
Yeah, and I think that race at Indy, that one caution came at a time when I think many thought it wasn't going to arrive, so keep that in mind. Jeff Drake has got a fresh car, and he's back out on track to begin what will be a lap. Who is behind him, though? That might end up setting a time. Seb Alexander's jumped up to 3rd, albeit slightly behind David Toth, whose time is flying right now. Michael Johnny, not quite sure what's happened to him. He's setting up right now. Is he going to really go for this lap after conditioning the tires?
Well, he's going to have to here. 10.8 seconds off the best is not exactly a representative time from him, so he will fire down in towards turn number 1 and make his first attempt at a proper lap. He was 8th at Indianapolis after what I'd describe as a fairly quiet afternoon, actually. Of course, the recently, or what would you call it, the new co-anda driver, I guess, one of the new co-anda drivers, relatively recently transferring over there. Not necessarily just for this series, but he's certainly helped them in this series show a real strong force at the front. At least they did at Indy.
That battle up front as well was so driven by fuel mileage. This is a race where, depending on how the cloud cover comes on in, it could end up being very much fuel driven as well. It's 50 degrees Celsius on track. These alternate tyres really not going to last very long. Johnny's been pretty tidy so far, committed down on the entry into the roller coaster. Jeff Drake's jumped to 7th, so we've got 10 times on the board. Luis Nunez, not quite sure if he's going to get a chance to set a time, but Pascal Stix, who is one of our invited drivers in the Core Sim Racing 47, will get back out there onto track and try and move his way on forward. Michael Johnny sees Van der Sant up to 3rd as Michael Johnny's co-anda number 23 slides to 2nd.
Very nice time for Michael Johnny, sliding straight up into 2nd position, fairly comfortably so as well, ahead of Kevin Burrell, who retired very early at Indianapolis. So a very much more spaced out group, actually, than what we saw in Group 1, which was a lot closer. Not sure whether that means that Group 1 was abnormally close or this group is abnormally stretched.
So I'm wondering, was there a car that towed at the start of this group?
Well, if it wasn't Jeff Drake, I wouldn't imagine so.
I thought it might have been Luis Nunez then, yeah.
Yeah, I think so, yeah. Well, it was a red car from what I remember.
Oh, then, that doesn't narrow it down too much. But I'm guessing what's happened here, I think I can confirm, by the way, it was Luis Nunez. So same thing that happened to Jaden Munoz. I think he forgot that you can't restart these cars, and so he turned the engine off, and then that's going to be his qualifying session done and dusted.
I can't believe you just cannot restart these cars. That's just weird. But anyway, that's it. So does he get into the race or not? Because there's only 11 of them anyway.
Well,
no?
if all Pascal Stix has to do right now is set a time and he makes the field.
Right, okay, but he's not done that yet, so where is he?
Well, that's the problem right now.
Okay.
He is still out there, but like you say, he's got to put it all together, and here he comes out of the final corner. Now, he's actually, Pascal Stix, someone I've raced plenty in prototype cars, been doing a lot of the iRacing IndyCar series, so he stands on the brakes, watch him move around in the rig as he goes through that opening sector, and now up to 6th on the board.
So he does have one, and Luis Nunez is going to miss out on the field for the 2nd round in a row, which is especially disappointing for someone of his speed, and very, very frustrating, especially on this occasion, and I suppose in round 1 as well. But Pascal Stix getting right in the midfield there, very impressive indeed for the Austrian, driving in towards the very odd turns 7 and 8. Locking up a little bit, getting a little bit wide, but at this point it somewhat doesn't really matter. He's made the field, and I'm sure he'll be pleased with that.
And checkered flag is out now for Group 2, so fast laps count. Here comes Christian Steele back around to the line. Now what's he going to be able to do? Oh, he's gone for the glaucoma background as well, and he's almost lost it. Big slide, hand in the air, hand on his head as well. He's still in 5th provisionally in the group.
Yep, he's okay for 5th, and I think with the way that Pascal Stix was going in the lap that we were seeing, he should be okay to stay there. Seb Alexander is at the very back end of this group right now and ends his lap time. Pascal Stix, by the way, moved up to 5th just in front of him. Alexander goes into 9th.
Wow, okay, so Luis Nunez unfortunately is not going to get to play, and what a shame, because he could have been a real one to watch up towards the front, and back-to-back races. That's the nature of the beast here, unfortunately. Confirmation from Ryan Barneveld as well. He had a full PC crash just after we went live for Group 1. What a shame. And that is, unfortunately, what this bumping sometimes brings. Big names who don't get to go racing for the 80 laps that lie ahead. Let's take a look, though, at those results. David Toth is going to provisionally line up in 2nd. He is about 2/10 off the time of Peter Berryman, but fastest in his group, Michael Johnny, Kevin Burrell, Alex Van der Sant, and Pascal Stix within half a second or so of your pole sitter in group, with Steele, Karasala, Dance, Alexander, and Andrich all advancing alongside of Jeff Drake at the back of the group. And well, just in the nick of time, here we go for Group 3.
Yeah, it's a quick turnaround, no waiting around here, just straight into the next session, and the final session, of course. Maybe the top 11 bumping thing will actually be a factor in this group.
The drivers were, I just want to say for clarity, drivers were warned the car does not restart. Like, unfortunate for Luis Nunez, but it's one of those peculiar things. If you don't drive this car very much, you might not be aware of it. And to your point, Ewan, this car now with the hybrid system does have the ability to restart. Yes, they had a couple of technical gremlins with it in its opening endeavors, but that's now what hopefully will get on iRacing sooner rather than later.
Yeah, maybe. I'm sure a few of these drivers will be hoping so as well. Luis Nunez this time round, Jaden Munoz in the first round of the championship, but he was lucky enough to make the field due to bizarre circumstances on that occasion, and put in an incredible drive afterwards as well. So unfortunately it doesn't look like Luis Nunez is going to be able to do that himself, but yeah, he won't be forgetting that in a hurry.
No, and there's 11 drivers in this group, by the way, a couple of them not showing up, and so as a result all 11 will advance. They're all just trying to figure out where in the group will they qualify, but I think more importantly for the likes of Michele Costantini, as he's very slowly sauntering through turn one, similar qualifying build to what we saw from Michael Johnny. For him, there's clearly one focus here: try and dethrone Peter Berryman at the top.
Yeah, and guess what they both have in common as well? They're both on the same team, of course, so this is the only team, Coanda, as far as I've seen so far today, to have been going with this very slow build-up to their laps. Now, it did get Michael Johnny a good lap time actually in that group eventually, even while it looked like he was lagging behind for quite a long time in the session. It eventually got him some rewards, although it wasn't as quick as Peter Berryman's time. Costantini also doing it. It's very weird that it's just within this one team.
Yeah, unfortunately. I think this also means he's going to get limited chances to go out there at the end, and maybe this is all just understanding the tire way more than us at the end of the day, so who knows. Alex Russell, Christian Hillgard, first couple of drivers onto the board. Josh Chin, though, 107.434, puts himself to the top of the running order. There's been a couple of cars having issues here, Ewan. That's Javi Ross first off through the final corner.
Yeah, don't forget about, oh dear me, unsteady rejoining like that as well. He's just about been able to avoid all of the others, and then gets over to the outside of the circuit so that he doesn't get hit by anybody else. Don't forget his issues in round one, by the way, Javi Ross, where he hit the wall and brought out that only caution of the day.
That was a big wreck as well. That was a car that was not moving anywhere. Now, look how much of a wiggle Jaden Munoz had to hang on to, and got very close to the wall, but no fear, and then slides his way, I think, down onto pit lane. No, he's going to stay out there on track, apparently.
That's a bit of an odd choice. You would have thought that, especially since you're so close to pit lane, you might as well come in and take the pit stop, but apparently not, and so staying out on the circuit for the moment. We're still very much building up to lap times here, really. I think only Christian Hillgard has really set a time representative of his speed.
Yeah, that's the first one into the 106s for this group. There's Blake Reynolds across the line as Jaden Munoz with a 106.656 goes within a tenth and a half of Peter Berryman. That's faster than David Toth, so now officially Toth going to be starting down in third. Where's Costantini? Where's Romanidis? Coanda Esports still building out there on track.
Yep, this is what we're going to see from them for quite some time, and maybe only now the likes of Romanidis and Costantini are actually going to start to go a little bit quicker. Don't forget that Romanidis had issues in the qualifying session of round one as well, didn't make the race, and he'll be looking to make his first here today.
So that's another banker lap time for both of the Coanda Esports drivers. Meanwhile, back end of the track, Alexander Russell. I think that's a bit of a preparatory lap as well. You can hear the engine on at full song as through the final corner. Jaden Munoz might be down onto pit lane. Alex Russell is as well, so it might be time for these drivers to split the session in half and grab the fresh set of tyres as Blake Reynolds follows them in too.
Yep, so this might well be the time to come in. If you're going for that strategy that you were talking about earlier on of an out lap, a flying lap, and then an in lap, and then an out lap, a flying lap, that you've just about got time for that. But if you're doing it, you need to come in right about now. Clearly Coanda are not going for that. They're going for a couple of build-up laps and then a couple of flying laps.
And is this going to be the couple of flying laps that we were waiting to see? Michael Romanidis is going to break the timing beam. And remember, 106.6 the target. He does a 106.8. Costantini is going to go to pole in group, but he's half a tenth shy of Peter Berryman.
It's still a very good lap time from Michele Costantini there, and so he goes to the front of the group with that slow building up strategy. It's paid off for Coanda in that they're in and around the lead again. They didn't take pole in Indianapolis either, but it was clear they were one of the fastest teams.
That's a flying qualifying lap. Remember, each of these sessions not likely, for each of the groups I should say, not likely to be identical in terms of the conditions, and so maybe not entirely fair to compare them, but that is the nature of what we are doing. Did see that Costantini was off the track. This is just him trying to avoid the oncoming traffic, is it?
No, that's him finished with the session. Well, he better be finished, otherwise he'll be disqualified.
Yeah, so he thinks he can't go any better than that. 1 minute left to go, so I don't think there was time for him to improve. Here we go. I think it will be fast laps count for these drivers across the line.
Yeah, Adam State goes quicker that time around. 7th for him now, 1.1 seconds off Michele Costantini, so he is clearly going quickly. Jed Munoz, I think that's an outlap from him, and he'll be setting himself for one more go at pole.
And he's getting a chance to actually try and qualify this time. Remember, he stalled his car at Indianapolis. Out wide, kicks up some grass. Now, I hope he didn't invalidate the lap time already as he heads down into Charlotte's Web. Heavy braking zone, track falls away from you, and lots of steering lock as well. And then on power, be careful that the car doesn't unwind on you as you unwind the steering.
Yeah, he clearly hasn't got the smoothest driving style in the world, but it is very effective, and he's currently he might be disappointed with that though, missing the apex a little bit. This is not looking like the best lap. If it goes to pole position, then I'll just mark it down as his driving style, because it is not the smoothest.
So here comes Josh Chin in the private label team height with Powerslide Motorsports, number 93. Say that one 5 times fast. 107.1095 his last lap time. Alex Russell's just run wide. He's going to start no better than 10th position. Can Josh Chin improve from 6th in group? Javi Ross, yes, he'll jump in front of Roche, who does still have a chance to try and respond.
Yep, he certainly will. Josh Chin getting up there though, 5th place for him, with Jed Munoz over the line, shaking his wheel. He's not impressed. Xavi Ross won't be either as he spins through the final turn.
You say not impressed. He's got a smile on his face at least, so he was pushing. You could definitely tell that. And now Jesper Orman in the Indy Alliance racing car. He'll come to the line, break the timing beam, and does not improve in terms of position. He does improve in terms of time.
Yeah, good improvement in terms of time, actually, for him. By the way, one side note, as Josh Chin made his way up to 5th place there, don't forget about the contact he made on the restart with Christian Hildgaard. Though they qualified 4th and 5th in that group, they might well find each other very quickly in this race as well.
There's a lot that happened in that first race of the season, wasn't there? And that was all before, in many ways, we even went racing. Now we've had our qualifying session in the books. There's a look at some of the drivers on the wall of webcams. Some of them will get quickly turned off as they unfortunately have not made the field, but we've got our 33 that are ready to go. And Ewan, they get a couple of minutes now to stretch their legs before they're forced back into the rigs and get ready to go once more.
Well, exactly. That's another discussion point. Do they actually get out of the rigs and walk around a little bit, decompress after qualifying, or do they prepare with some race runs?
Good question, actually. The session won't go up until we've been able to put the grid together, but Costantini will be second. And so Berryman holds on to pole with Munoz, Romanidis, Hildgaard, Chin, rest of the top 5 in group with Javi Ross, Rob Malechka, Adam State, Blake Reynolds, Alexander Russell, and then Jesper Orman at the back of the group. Well, that's the first part of the day done and dusted. Qualifying in the books. It's now time to go racing with the 33 whittled down. We'll be back here from the Alabama roller coaster from the Barber Motorsports Park with the kickoff of round 2 in the VCO IndyCar Challenge powered by Open Wheels in about 20 minutes time.
The sky so far, but I can't lose this.
Indianapolis, and live from the racing capital of the world, we welcome you to the summer of virtual IndyCar race. Yes, Redline, Apex, Coanda, plenty of those drivers to take center stage. I've got my eyes also focused on the iRacing IndyCar community favorites, the likes of Christian Steele and Rob Milechka, recent iRacing Indy 500 winners, and Phil Kraus, the man that loves to build houses here at the Speedway. 6 races, $7,000 on the line, and the most stacked field of IndyCars iRacing has ever seen. World champions, iRacing Indy 500 winners, we've got them all. And a stack up behind, and a crash already. Oh, drivers forgetting how to start races. It's PS competition and Danny Lorenzo, they get mixed up. That now make their way down pit lane. Your race leader has done 24 laps. Costantini, Veyron going to be following in behind.
Cheese is going to be on. Coitert is likely going to take the race lead here.
Where does the 17 emerge though in relation to the oncoming up to speed traffic directly in front of the battle that we've been following? Ready to go racing here from the Alabama roller coaster for round 2 of the VCO IndyCar Challenge powered by Open Wheels. Arjuna Kangipati alongside of Ewan O'Leary, and with 80 laps of racing action, it's going to be a long and an endurance sort of a race, but on a weekend with the iRacing 24 Hours of Spa. Let's be honest, Ewan, this pales in comparison to the challenge of that. I think it's going to be interesting. The battle though on tyre compounds, weather and all of that stuff going to come to the forefront.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be very fun indeed to see what happens over the course of 80 laps here this afternoon. How easy is it going to be to pass one another? How are they going to work things through in terms of strategy as well on the tyres? We saw that provide so much interest throughout the race at Indianapolis, and the defining factor in that race was indeed the caution. Are we going to get any of those today? When will it come and who will it benefit when we get there?
And again, the pace car can be triggered by our team at Race Control, and from there, iRacing's pace car procedure to be followed opens up those pit stop windows. Let's see how it's all going to play out, what compound the drivers are going to elect to start on. Let's quickly again just remind everybody that next time we go racing next week, it's 250 laps at the Iowa Speedway, and while they may not have had the best race in the NTT IndyCar Series there last weekend, you best believe that we're going to be in for a treat at the Short Oval.
Yeah, certainly it's going to be the race with the most laps this season. It's going to be the shortest track of the season, and our first oval as well of 2 that we're going to get throughout the 6 rounds. So very much looking forward to going there, and as you say, we are in for a big streak of races now, back to back to back to back, right to the end of the season.
And let's take a look at the championship. Peter Berryman just given himself 2 extra points on this equation by going to the top of qualifying. So he's now alongside of Michele Costantini, with Eduardo Leo missing in action. Elliot Veyron not going to be part of the rest of the season. It's Phil Kraus, David Toth, and then those behind that are going to really try and take this race as an opportunity, because at Iowa I think it's going to be all wide open. We'll have 35 Indy cars running around that track. It's going to be crazy with traffic. Yes, it's the most laps, but it's a race that will fly on past when those laps are under 20 seconds in time.
And even so, after those 3 rounds, we will be seeing still a very unusual championship order. Really only in the second half of the season can we really get to grips with who is going to win this championship, because as you say, we've got Elliot Veyron, who's not going to be there at the top, you wouldn't imagine, after this round, neither would Eduardo Leo. So who is going to be towards the top? It's going to be very, very confusing indeed. And just surviving, getting through these first few rounds, I think, inside the top 5, top 10, I think you're still very much within a chance.
Well, the drivers have been escorted off the track. It's time to go racing. 33 to Lara IR18s to get stacked up behind the pace car, and then a full pace lap with which to build some temperature into their tires to dissipate any of the nerves. From there, it's ready to go racing. We'll take a look at how they'll stack up And again, remember, all split up by their respective qualifying groups, qualifying very much setting the tone for where they end up lining up. And so Peter Berryman, fastest of them all in that Apex Racing team number 50. It's got Michele Costantini, his former teammate, alongside. And then Drago Racing, David Toth and Jose Soria locking out row 2. Watch for them. Jaden Munoz, Michael Gianni, 5th and 6th positions respectively. Great to see Jaden get a chance to start up towards the front, others climb back all the way through the field. Oscar Mangan, no longer with Altus Esports, is alongside of Michael Romanidis, with Kevin Burrell, Phil Kraus, Christian Hilgard and Alexander van der Sant, the rest of the front 12. We make our way towards the mid-pack to find Pablo Espez alongside of Josh Chin, Pascal Stix, the invited driver, alongside of Jacob Oster, the spaceman, with Xavi Ross and Christian Steele sharing row number 9. It'll be Adam Crane, Rob Malechka, edge of the top 20, with Sam Carasala, Marcos Nunez, and then Adam State and Cam Dance. Pair of reserve drivers making their way onto row number 12. It will be Matt Taylor and Blake Reynolds, 25th and 26th, with Seb Alexander, Andrew Marquez, Alexander Russell, and then Blaze Andrich inside of the top 30. Just Brian Carey, Jesper Orman, and Jeff Drake at the very back of the pack. And we blasted our way down through the grid so quickly that there's still cars waiting to get funneled up behind the pace car. So instead, here's a look at the faces of some of the drivers getting ready to rumble. Phil Kraus is the driver missing in the bottom left. He's got to get back into his rig sooner rather than later. Kevin Burrell's a couple of squares up from him. But some relaxed drivers, some on their phones as well.
Yeah, not many people really looking at what they're supposed to be at the moment. Phil Kraus has returned now. He's back there again. I thought someone in the top row was missing there, but actually I can just see the top of their head. They've just not placed their camera very well. So I don't know who that is because I can't see who they are, but there you go. It's interesting to see how many different camera placements there are, but there, as Joey was talking about a few weeks ago, a bit of a lack of variety compared to some of the others that we do because everyone is so professional here.
I think I know the one that you're talking about. And is that next to Pascal Stix in the very orange shirt?
Yes,
yeah. That's the top of Jose Soria's head.
Okay. And his seats as well, in case you wanted to see that. But nothing else of his setup.
No, not much else indeed. Still, again, as I mentioned, waiting for the final drivers to get their way behind the pace car. You can see a handful have already gotten themselves onto the grid. 80 laps of racing. Now, I know the threat of the caution is real, Ewan, so I don't know how much strategy there is, but already seeing a bit of a mix between the primary and the alternate compound of tyre. Only drivers inside of the top 5 electing on the alternate tyre, much of the mid-pack starting on that harder compound primary tyre.
Yeah, and I wonder how much credit we can give to the Indianapolis race in terms of what we're seeing here, because I mentioned it before. Very few of the drivers started on the alternate tyres and then went on to a second stint as well. Alexander van der Sant did, Peter Perryman did, Jaden Munoz did, but not many did go for a couple of stints at the start of the race. And that speaks to, first of all, just how many started on the alternates last time, but also how viable it was to continue using it throughout the race. I'm not sure how much credit we can give to those Indianapolis conditions and the circuit in comparison to this one, but it is worth noting when we're looking at these tyre choices here.
Right, now both of us already have predictions at play when it comes to the iRacing Spa 24. I'm going to give you half the lap here to figure out who you want to put up as your prediction here today, but end of the day, Ewan, I think we're in for a bit of an interesting race. I'm expecting at least one safety car. I don't see how we don't end up with one. And so what could be a fuel save race here, you can cut out a pit stop relatively easily according to some drivers. Can you really commit to it right from the drop of the green flag?
I think it's difficult to do that, difficult to bank on that. But then again, if you're waiting around and trying to make sure that a safety car comes out or a caution comes out, if you're waiting for that, I don't think that's a good thing either. So this is a very difficult thing to manage. Again, though, I do think there will be a caution. To be honest, it's a little bit surprised there wasn't two, at least during Indianapolis. At the end, it was Xavi Ross's crash that brought out the safety car. And Eric Andre, don't forget, had a crash at turn 12 and a technical problem as well, which very nearly brought out caution 2. So even just factoring those in on another day, it could have been 2 cautions. Here, at what I would argue is a more tricky circuit, could be more.
Look at that left side, Ewan. Michele Costantini is going to start on the primaries, and he's got a couple of Drago cars, Jaden Munoz behind, that are going to be hungry on the alternates to try and, I have to assume, make up some track position.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that the 4 of the top 5 have gone for the alternates there, just to, I guess, to try and retain their track position from where they've started. Don't think it's a bad idea, but it would be surprising to see the double alternate stints to start this race. We'll see if somebody goes for it, though.
Look at those teams on the left. A couple less Coanda cars, yes, than in round one, but they've still got 3 in the top 10. 2 Drago cars to try and spoil their fun, though. Maybe a couple of the private label team hype with power slide entries to try and do some fuel saving from outside of the top 10 in the case of Alexander Van der Sande and Josh Chin. Prediction time, Ewan. I've given you enough time.
Thanks. I'm going for David Toff because I thought he was really good in the opening race and could have won without that caution. He will play the cautions better this time round.
I think I've got to go Peter Berryman. I don't know. It's something about that Corby crew that they figured it out. But so have Drago Racing, to be fair. But off to the start zone we go. Pace car off and away. Are we going to see it again? Green flag in the hands, not of your pace car driver or Barney the flagman. It's in Peter Berryman's hands. We go racing here at the Alabama roller coaster and rumbling down to turn 1. Costantini on those primary compound tires is going to have to fight for all he's worth. His teammate Michael Johnny's driven through the grass, and as they sequence out of turn 2, 3 wide behind, Christian Hilgard being bullied and pushed out wide. Kevin Burrell with a terrible start, already down to 13th spot.
Well, it's a better start, I suppose, than what he had at Indianapolis, where he was out the race by now. But he has had a bit of a... Oh, dear, huge crash. Someone was down the inside of the track there and came crashing into someone else.
And that was Adam Crane, I think, getting tangled up with Kevin Burrell. Marcos Nunez, the fiercely forward car, is going to leave the scene of the incident. But that car stationary, we may get the caution flown on the opening lap.
Well, what a disaster that would be for the race. We never want to see this, an opening lap incident, I'm afraid. And it looks like I've spoken too soon. Kevin Burrell involved within it for the 2nd round in a row. What a shame that would be for him. Still no caution yet as we come to the end of the opening lap, but the car is still there.
Well, speak of it, there
Now
it comes. We round the final corner. Kevin Burrell's going to be given permission to return to pit lane on the back of the flatbed, and we'll slow things down. And how does this help? Well, I think in some ways, if you're committed to the fuel save, this is perfect for you.
Well, absolutely, yeah. It always depends on how many cautions we actually get in terms of fuel saving, and that is a perfect situation if you are one of those drivers. Also perfect if you got caught up a little bit in the opening lap incident there. Don't forget there was an opening lap incident back in Indianapolis where guys like Christian Hilgard did get through it but was missing part of his front wing after that. If you're one of those drivers, you don't have to suffer like Hilgard did under green. You can come in under yellow now.
Yeah, that's a good point actually. Marcos Nunez is already down on pit lane. Are we going to see a couple of others elect to follow suit? Right on board with Michael Johnny. Saving some fuel. Watch, he's put himself up into 6th gear. Yeah,
you won't be doing that very often around here, but you will under caution. I imagine he'll be clutching in a little bit as well. You see absolutely no rev lights there, and he'll want to keep it that way throughout this caution. I think even if you're not going for that fuel saving strategy, you'll still do this anyway.
Yeah. Can see everybody just rolling themselves down the hill. They do have the fuel maps to work with as well. This early caution. There's a couple of the alternate compound tires further back in the field. You find Adam State, 18th spot. Blake Reynolds, Matt Taylor, Blaze Andrich, and Andrew Marquez. Going to be curious for them from their perspective what they think about this. There's a look at the weather conditions, by the way, as we get things underway.
It's hot, I think, is the translation for that. 53 degrees Celsius. What it feels like in my room at the moment.
And no AC for you either, right?
No, oh God, no. Not in England. Are you mad?
Yeah, I mean, that would be nice, wouldn't it?
Well, for about 2 days of the year, yeah, but would probably go unused for the rest.
Now, there's a couple of bonus points to be paid out as well, let's not forget. 2 points for leading the most laps, 2 points for punching in the fastest lap, but outside of that, everything else to be divvied out for those on track. Let's see. I'm not sure if it's going to work. It does, but it's hidden, so never mind. Well, live points, we'll have that later on this season.
Yeah, well, it matters much. As I said, I don't think you're going to be able to have any idea at all who's really leading this championship, even after 3 rounds, because the guys who did well at Indianapolis are not here, so they'll be, pegged back a little bit, and so you might get a championship leader, then they might get caught up in something at Iowa. You don't know what's going to happen to them there. I really don't think you're going to be able to make heads or tails of the championship standings after Iowa. I think you'll have to wait as everybody sets a new fastest lap here.
Wow, such fast laps being punched in.
Yeah, I mean, of course, lap 1 doesn't even count, so that's why they're getting fastest laps for the first time. The first laps were quite amusing to see because everyone was just getting slower as you went down the line.
Right.
But, yeah, it's one of those weird things with a caution on the start.
So as these drivers continue to circulate, that's a very damaged race car, but there's a couple of drivers, Matt Taylor, Andrew Marquez, Seb Alexander, Alexander Russell, Brian Carey, who have come into pit lane, and in some of these cases, have they taken off the alternate compound tyre and instantly thrown the primaries on?
Well, let's have a look. Andrew Marquez has got the primaries on now after pitting in. Surely you go for the primaries if you're pitting at this stage, yeah. So as they scroll down on the left-hand side of your screen, you'll see them. It would make a lot of sense, I think. You wouldn't want to waste alternates, in my opinion, just stuck in traffic, but Jeff Drake has gone for that.
Yeah, that's... I like this sort of mix-up, though, that we do have. Jerry Ross... 46.5 seconds stationary, back out on the alternate. Now, he's just got to fulfill whatever iRacing will tell him he's got to do on both compound of tyre. Not quite sure, to be completely honest, in these conditions, what even is the preferred choice of tyre. But lights are off on the pace car, so we're getting ready to go racing this time by.
Yep, no funniness with people being a lap down, stuck between lead lap drivers, by the way, as we saw on the only restart of Indianapolis. This is going to be a pretty clean restart compared to that, with nobody in the way. Not that we ever have to sort them out anyway, but it just means that the leader will actually be first, the second place driver will actually be second, and so on. That may not happen if we get one later on in the race.
Yeah, that is just a confirmation. David Toth on the left, and Jose Soria's wall
head
and chair, and maybe some of his head.
I think I could just about see his headphone band, if you see what I mean, on the top of his head. But that's about it. He's hiding, but he got off to a decent start and stays third.
Right, so here we go. Pace car's going to peel off and away and hopefully give us a decent green flag run, around 25 or so odd laps on fuel. Can that be extended a little bit further? Could we see lap 30? As the drivers get ready to punch the throttle, Peter Berryman punches the accelerator, and green flag drops once more, single file through the entirety of the field, and no one really using push to passes right now. They're saving that to try and maybe use it later on in the race.
Yeah, it's quite strenuous to actually use them around here, I would imagine. There's really not very many places you actually can, whereas at Indianapolis, you could at the very most use 3 a lap and effectively get away with it. Round here, not so much. Sorry, I used one there on the way down the hill towards the hairpin, but he was actually defending from his teammate. That's an odd use of a push to pass.
It's one of those things where I wonder if there's maybe just something that they're thinking about in terms of fuel numbers as well, where some of these drivers do not want to use the push to pass. It's a bit of wheel-to-wheel action, but not down into turn 7. Surely you've got the Motorcycle Museum greeting you on the right-hand side. Christian Seal allows Pascal Stix to slide his way on through and up back to 16th position as they fight their way back to the S's. Now this, remember, we had that brief cooling period on the tyres. Some of these drivers might have to warm the tyres back up here.
Well, it won't take too long, even if they do, because as we saw in that little caution there, 53 degrees Celsius down on the circuit. That is pretty warm, as Jose Soria, by the way, is trying to make a move here. Michele Costantini has not got off to a good start, as Peter Berryman has flown out the blocks. Soria now putting on the pressure for second.
Now this is where those tyres are going to come into play, and if you are Soria, if you are Toth in those Drago racing cars, get the bit between your teeth, and Soria back on the button. Can he take advantage as they crest out of turn 3? He'll jink to the inside, try and get onto the brakes through Charlotte's Web, and Costantini's got to be careful. He'll get freight trained here. If David Toth also on the push to pass can take advantage, you'll get 70 extra horsepower. Look the long way around, but with the assistance from the Italian, Drago Racing now slot into the podium spots.
Yeah, and it's for the second time in 2 rounds that the Coanda drivers, after qualifying well, are starting to go backwards. This is just the start of it, of course, but Michele Costantini here is dropping a couple of places in one go. Jaden Munoz is next. Michael Gianni and Michael Romanidis haven't quite done the same, but it does make you think back to Indianapolis and just what happened there.
Remember, different compounds of tyres at play. Costantini just needs to be careful that he doesn't lose too much more time in being passed by Jaden Munoz. Battles behind. Christian Hillgard slips up the inside of Alexander Van der Sant, but a wiggle off that final corner. It's going to cost them some time. Burning some push-to-pass usages here, and already 1.6 seconds off the back of the drivers in front of them as they roll back around out of turn 2, and we're on to the 6th lap of 80. About 90 minutes of racing still left in front.
Yeah, still a very, very long way to go, and it's about staying out of trouble in some ways, as some unfortunately haven't been able to do already in this race. But Also, track position going to be very important. Some of that has been settled already in qualifying, of course, but if you can make your way through now, it'd be good news. There's the contact. Goodness me, that's a big hit for Kevin Burrell, and that's exactly why he's out the race. Marcos Munoz also now 4 laps down after this contact.
Yeah, I think he's trying to get his car fixed, but there's not much that he can do, and there was that bit of contact into the side of Adam Crane. That's what took Xavi Ross and cost him a bit of contact as well. Let's see what will happen, though, as now just continue to run around with Burrell definitely done for the day, unfortunately. Not sure what's going to happen to some of those other cars in terms of lingering damage still left to play. Jose Soria, 1.5 seconds off the back, though, of Peter Berryman, as David Toth, new fastest lap of the race.
Well, this is the thing now for the teammates. Do they decide to continue running in this way, or will they exchange places? Because I think that Toth is quicker than Soria, to be honest. And they may well decide to reverse positions, but earlier Soria was using push to pass to defend from Toth, don't forget. So it was an odd choice, but that shows that there may not be too much teamwork between them.
So a look there at both Phil Krause and Michael Romanidis for a second. Meanwhile, all of that unfolding as battles just inside of the top 20. Cam Dance and Pascal Stix just in front of these drivers. Christian Steele's lost the rear wing, though. That's clearly not a very healthy Team i5G number 2.
No, and he's wrestling with the car as well with a bit of oversteer. This is a real, I suppose you would be with a rear wing hanging off like that, and it's going to be no better through these final couple of corners as Jaden Munoz has found himself dropping down the order as well here, by the way.
He's done it again, run himself wide. That's what happened to Christian Steele, just in a almost innocuous bit of contact, seemingly dislodging that rear wing. Munoz back into line, he's down in 13th.
Yeah, that's a real disappointment for Jaden Munoz there, because he was challenging for the top 5. He's on alternates. He really needed this stint to be one where he moves forward, and instead he's gone backwards predominantly.
Here's what happened. He was challenging, and what I don't even know what line that is. That is Williams Esports car that no shadow of a doubt has got damage as a result of that trip through the roller coaster.
That was really silly. I'm not sure he had the space and the. I think he's misjudged that. I don't think he's meant to do that, because that was silly. He's gone straight over the curb, and don't forget, compared to that camera we were seeing there, he can see a lot less on the way into that sort of downhill blind entry to the left-hander, especially when you're so narrow on the inside, entering at an angle you don't normally enter at. I'd be willing to give him the benefit of the doubt there and say that was a mistake rather than intentional.
And there is 100% damage on that front wing now, and so that he's not got too much understeer, but he's got a bit. Ran out wide. He's going to have to compromise his strategy and come in at some point, because otherwise this is going to be a very, very painful stint for that 124 in front of him. Pablo Espes on the button, down to turn 1. That's not traditionally a passing zone. He'll slip up the inside of Alexander van der Sanden, establishes himself inside the top 10.
That's a good place for Pablo Espes to be now as he continues to move on through the field inside the top 10 for the first time today. Finished 13th at Indianapolis and wasn't amongst the leaders. He was the first to pit amongst the leaders when we got around to about lap 15, I think it was, at Indianapolis. We're already not too far away from that. I wouldn't imagine he'll be the first one in this time round, though, because he's on the primaries, of course, as opposed to the alternates last time.
So race control has obviously been taking a look at a couple of things here and there. The first little bit, though, of contact has resulted, as far as we can tell, in a no further action, as it would seem, and so as it sits right now, no penalties for what unfolded on the opening lap. We'll see what more we've still got left in store for us, though. There's a long way still left to go in this race, and Christian Steele is one lap down and trying to avoid becoming part of the battles that are now rumbling through the roller coaster.
Well, fair play to him for the commitment of staying out the way of everybody, but I don't think he needed to be that extreme. He was driving straight down the grass there, and so much so I thought he was coming in to retire, but he has continued on. And this is the problem as well with pitting early. When you're a little bit further towards the back, you may find yourself a lap down very quickly, as you would have done at Indianapolis as well, and that will completely ruin your strategy. By the way, Christian Steele 2 laps down and back in the pit lane again now.
Yeah, I don't think there is a healthy race car that he's dealing with. Jaden Munoz is down to 15th, make that 14th, because he's battling with Pascal Stix. But look at these leaders, 3 up front, now 7 seconds clear of Michele Costantini, who's not even in shot as they roll their way through the roller coaster entry. There's a big gap being established with this different tyre compound strategy, and Pascal Stix has now lost the rear wing as well.
Oh dear, Adam State goes through. Oh, save it. Pascal Stix somehow doesn't end that in a big crash. He'll pull over and make sure the others get through, but that was a near catastrophe moment for everybody, not just Pascal Stix.
Clearly what we're learning though is these rear wings are not attached by much. If that's all it takes to break the rear wing, Jaden Munoz slight little love tap and Pascal Stix, that rear wing instantly departs.
Well, that is a real shame for him and a concern for everybody else, because you're right, that doesn't take a lot, and we saw it with Christian Steele too. And then have a look at the wheel work here. This is through the next chicane. He lets one car through, and then, oh goodness me, that was a big save. But after seeing that, eventually he got out of the way.
Did a good job of holding on to it. You've got to give him the credit. Blake Reynolds, Cam Dance got the call up to be here and now battling just inside of the top 20 for 16th position. Run down to turn 7. Adam Crane's on the charge back. He's up to 25th after being involved in the opening lap bit of contact. But as you can see right now, big movers really inside of this top 20. Blaze Andrich plus 11, Blake Reynolds plus 9.
Yeah, these are the guys that we're really looking at as having made some real progress early on in the race. Talking about it earlier on, but those who qualify in these races and then continue to move on forward are ones that very much impress me, especially Cam Dance, of course, who, by the way, I just checked what time it is for him at the moment, 5:20 in the morning.
Not too bad. What do you mean?
He's probably not been to bed yet, that's why it's not.
No, he definitely went to sleep. He was late to join the session.
You think? Okay. Because if that was me, I'm not going to lie, I would have just stayed awake.
I'm not going to quote what his team manager said, but there was some stern words about what would happen if Cam did not wake up in the Orbit Motorsport 111. He's got the Nitrocross entry behind him, not Oscar Bixford behind the wheel, who was with us in the 79 for round 1. Instead, it's Blake Reynolds in the 066 behind them. Xavi Ross, recovery drive continues. He slices up the inside of Rob Malechka.
Yeah, good move there, and exchange of positions here, is that? No, the rare defensive move on the way up here towards turn 7. You don't see that very often, as Jed Munoz finds himself trickling down the order again. There he is.
And that's not healthy, is it? Oh, he slowed down, I think, to let them go through, but he's surely going to be down on pit lane this time by, you'd have to assume.
It wasn't a slow down, was it, at the bizarre curb chicane thing?
Surely not. As Xavi Ross tries to get to the inside of Blake Reynolds in the live picture, does it with decisiveness in the penultimate corner. What happens here, though, on the replay?
Yeah, very well done, Xavi Ross there. Yeah, was it a slowdown? Does he get it all wrong? Yes, that's exactly what happens. It wasn't a slow down, I don't think. I think he was just getting back up to speed again. Yeah,
slow to get back up to speed, unfortunately, and lingering damage, unfortunately. I think probably wise that he try and bring the car in for at least a front wing change. Not sure he's been able to bail. Xavi Ross on the charge. He's now on long side of Cam Dance. This is quite remarkable. Started, on the tail end of the top 30 on this restart. Now up to 16th. And can he do the crisscross? He's on the button trying to take advantage. Can he slip to the inside? Remember, Cam Dance on the primaries. Still on the alternates for Xavi Ross. And it's switched on to them as well in the pit stop sequence. And now forward to 15. 2.5 seconds to close to Adam State.
I mean, as soon as he used the push to pass, he knew that he absolutely had to make that move from that point. You can't afford to waste them round here, a circuit where you have to be very selective with them anyway. So Xavi Ross makes his way through into 15th. It's the best placed of any driver to have pitted so far in this race. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, he's the only one who pitted onto those red stripe tyres.
Yes, I think you're correct. The only one that pitted onto them, with the exception of Jeff Drake, who's much further down in the field. There are your leaders. 1 second covering 3 cars. We're on to the 14th lap of 80. Still a long way to go in this race, but as it seems right now, alternate tyres holding on pretty well. 108.9 last time for Peter Berryman, 109.4 for Costantini.
Yeah, it's trading of lap times between these three for the moment versus the rest of the field. They are still in a window where they are quicker than the rest, but from the way the lap times are trending, it doesn't seem like we're a million miles away from lap times for these guys being actually slower than those behind them, or at least levelling out. They are still pulling out a margin, but it's getting smaller and smaller by the lap. The next interesting thing to me is just how many laps it's going to be until they stop. Are they going to go for a 2-stop strategy, or are they going to bite the bullet and make it 3?
It's a good point, actually, right? Because It's gone green for quite a while. I'm trying not to curse anything right now, saying those words, but these drivers could have expected, cautions to breed cautions. We've seen a couple of the rear wings go, getting disconnected, but not really much more than that, right? So as it sits right now, it does seem as though we're trending to a race that may spend more of its time green than anything else, but who knows? We'll wait to find out.
Well, I think what we saw in qualifying was quite instructive of what we might see during this race, actually, because we even saw during that session some drivers finding themselves in the barriers and not needing to pit down to pit lane for sure, but they certainly did need to limp back to the pit lane under their own steam, and that's an indicator for me that if the drivers are struggling on their own to keep cars under control, what is a difficult circuit, then it's going to be tricky when there are others around them as well, and so far we've already seen that off of the start. Thankfully it was a clean restart, but we have certainly seen how there can be incidents on this circuit already.
Definitely something to keep an eye on, though, I think, are a couple of these drivers. Maybe not there competing on raw pace up front, but these would be amongst the first handful of drivers that I would assume are solidly committed to doing some fuel saving as well. Alex van der Sande and Jacob Oost are the two that we see on our screen, but Josh Chin as well. I can tell you from personal experience competing against him, he has this magic ability to make fuel, as have both of these drivers in various oval races in the Lionheart Speedway and IndyCar series, but here on the road course, Josh Chin's the one that I'm maybe a little bit more watching for.
Yeah, he's just in behind this onboard camera we're seeing at the moment with Jacob Ooster, currently in 12th position. Was very close to not making it at all at Indianapolis, only just made the split in the end with the qualifying format. It was a little bit more pressing on these drivers than it has been today. Still only got 27th at Indianapolis. I think he's making a big step forward this time round, and you'd certainly expect that from him.
Seems as though we might have our first penalty of the day, and confirmation as it comes through. That's Jaden Munoz, the 124, who'll have a drive-through penalty for forcing a car off the track. Now, one thing I will just say, though, is a drive-through penalty here, it's not necessarily too bad, although I guess, you do have to make your way into pit lane, and the merge is not the nicest as well, so I'm just thinking, compare it to the 24 hours of Spa Ewan where we've just been commentating on, where that trip down pit lane costs you 60 seconds. So basically, almost puts you down a lap here if it was at Barber.
Yeah, absolutely, but I think, as you say, for Munoz it won't be too bad. It doesn't sound too bad, but it will still drop him to the end of the lead lap, let's not forget. Seb Alexander is the last driver on the lead lap at the moment, and he is currently 46 seconds off the lead, only 10 seconds behind Jaden Munoz, so actually it doesn't sound like a lot, but realistically it will be 9 positions.
Got another incident under investigation, I do believe. Couple have just popped on through, so see if there's anything that race control deems worthy of their attention. Track maps shows the leaders cross the line. See lap 17 in the books. Remember, estimate is around 25 plus laps in terms of fuel mileage. So with the was it almost 4 full laps running under caution. Probably hoping to get to lap 30 or so, and from there, the race leaders, their strategists behind the scenes, will all be scheming and calculating as well. But I think we're about to reach the crossover point because, yes, there's a lot of cloud that's started to come over the surface of the track. But Peter Berryman, 109.135 last time by. Michele Costantini, 109.360.
Yeah, we're getting closer and closer to the split time as Munoz comes in, by the way. 0.2 of a second, the gap, though, between those front three and Costantini on that last lap. And, of course, Michael Gianni and Oscar Mangan, by the way, who are both in that sort of pace range as well. And there are even some fastest lap times of their personal days coming for those a little bit further down, for those who have pitted already so far. For those, of course, for those guys, it may be even easier to save the necessary fuel as we look at a very nervy moment here in towards 1 and 2.
And here come your leaders, Berryman, Soria, Toth. They've decided 18 laps on these alternates. That cloud cover is really quite interesting as well. Not quite sure what it would favor. You'd assume might help the softer alternate compound of tire. 51 degrees Celsius, though, out on track with some wind to speak of as well, as Kawanda will retake the lead now. It's Costantini from Gianni, but a slip up from Drago Racing's David Toth as he tries to hit the marks.
He absolutely missed them there, and he's cost himself a heap of time. Look at the gap to Peter Berryman from David Toth now. That is really, really, really damaging for someone who will for sure have wanted to be setting his sights on the win today. Not only has it put him so far behind Perriman, look at the traffic it's put him in compared to what he needed to be put in. Xavi Ross making sure as well he defends from Toff on the way down the hill into the hairpin there. Disaster for Toff.
Yeah, but it's not ideal. This is really what traffic can do. One small slip up, and I think Peter Berriman on that strategy has now gifted that opportunity. Yes, he's still got to pass Josh Chin and Alexander Van der Sant, but here you go, aggression shown from Toth to find a way past the 04 of Ross, because he couldn't afford to wait any longer. And quite interestingly, of course, or maybe but not interestingly, yes it is, okay, no, Peter Berriman stayed on the alternates here.
Oh, he's done it again. He does like this strategy. Did it last time, he's doing it again now, and you would have thought that maybe even before Costantini comes in, he might be in the lead again here.
Yeah, this is I don't want to say bizarre, it's going counter to what I would have expected, I'll put it that way.
Well, it's a 3-stop, that much is clear.
Yeah, that is for sure, and so he's now stuck behind a couple who will be maybe not wanting to go on a 3-stop. Adam State now has got David Toth in the rearview mirror. Already Jose Soria is a good 3 seconds in front of his teammate. One costly mistake from the Hungarian, now on the button to try and salvage something.
State was all over the place through turn 2 there. Toff will be annoyed if he doesn't make this overtake, if anything, and he goes straight down the inside. Look at Adam State's camera there. He's not attached that properly, but it just attached the, or captures the state of stress and the sort of pressure that these guys are on. Maybe in fact it was rattling so much because he was off the track there. He's lost out to Xavi Ross as well.
Indeed it is, and now Cam Dance cycles in behind in that 111 for Orbit Motorsport. So we've had 3 drivers down from the front. Blaze Andrich has come in from slightly further down in the field. Jaden Munoz has served his drive-through penalty as well as Michele Costantini out of turn 1 and through the long right-hander onto lap 21. Remember, we think 10 more laps at most from him. And I'm going to guess Kawanda are doing some fuel saving. I just can't believe they're not.
Well, they might well possibly be. In terms of fuel, by the way, just on a pure logical level, if you're going to make 2 stops, you have to make lap 28 here in this opening stint of the race. That means that you can do another 2 27-lap stints, if you like, to get to the end. But the reason I say you have to make lap 28 is because of the caution laps that we had at the start here. You should have saved a lap and a half through that phase of the race.
Couple more race control things coming through. No further action. Full contact between Adam State and Christian Steele. Adam State is now, though, serving what is a long time down on pit lane, so I'm not quite sure what he's managed to do. There was a penalty. Excuse me, never mind. Got it confused. There was a penalty, and so that's why I think he's sitting for quite a while. He has a drive-through lurking over his head. He came down, he's doing service as well, which I think means he's going to be held there even longer.
I think he might well be out of the running, to be honest, with all of that. Bit of a shame to see the second penalty awarded throughout this event so far, but thankfully race control have been relatively on the quiet side, especially since the actual start.
As Peter Berriman's on board as he sits behind Alexander Van der Sant, long right-hander, and does he use a push to pass? Yes, you can see the dash light up, the revs begin on the screen as well to just go haywire, but he gets a extra push of 70 horsepower, gives him the impetus to make the move there. And in terms of tire differences, I'm not quite sure what's happening here, because compare Peter Berriman with Jose Soria, for example, who does indicate that he's on the primary compound of tire on our timing screens. Oh, never mind. Just that last lap. Traffic holding up Peter Berriman.
Yes, it probably was. I mean, traffic will now begin to hold up Soria, though. Don't forget about Berriman's pit stop there. That was absolutely vital in getting him in as little traffic as possible. That's why Toff sliding through the box was so costly. Look how far behind he is now. 7 seconds almost through that in one go, and that's before the tyre difference has begun to really take hold of the gap. It's really, really damaging for David Toff, not least because he had a longer stop too, but look at that, nearly 3 seconds longer in the lane. They're 2 favourites for this race, now split apart by a very big gap.
And so their margin, you can see, about 7 seconds. David Toth loses 4/10 that lap. Peter Berriman clear of Alexander Van der Sant, and now trying to stretch the leg. So Blake Reynolds on alternate tyres that may be starting to be past their sell-by date. Cam Dance already has made the move. On Malechka Two-time iRacing Indy 500, did both the fixed and the open win on the same weekend earlier this month of June. He's now on the back, though, of the 066 former NASCAR competitor in the Nitro Cross Nitro Circus sim racing entry.
And something else I didn't know about Robert Maleczka, by the way, is he's a cycling fan as well. Did you know that?
Yes, he loved Tadej Pogacar's climb up.
Yeah, I was going to say, he's clearly enjoying the current situation more than me, but that's another story. That's something I didn't know about him before, I'll just throw it out there. Anyway, he's trying to find his way into the top 16 for now, trying to find his way to a permanent slot on the left-hand side of our screen.
That's a good point, actually. You want to be inside of the top 16, just so that
name on there?
Everybody can know where you are without having to go to timing71.org. Now that's bold through the penultimate corner, but it shows how little grip Reynolds has still got. Around the outside, Maleczka, the 91, the Powerslide Motorsports with private label team hype car, forward to 16th.
Good move in the end. Reynolds, by the way, was all out of shape, which is what sort of facilitated Maleczka even having the idea of going down the inside through the penultimate corner. But in the end, it was worked out pretty easily. It's very clear to see, I think, at this stage in the race, who's really paced themselves through this first stint of the race and who is hanging on purely for fuel reasons.
Another thing has just been noted down by race control. Dive bomb between the 18 and the 04. So that's Xavi Ross and Adam State. And Adam State's actually still in pit lane, so I wonder if maybe it wasn't just the penalty that had elongated the pit stop. Guessing there's probably a bit of damage as well. Now Cam Dance slips up out of turn 7. Wheel to wheel through the S's. Oh, and Dance holds on, gives the fade to Rob Maleczka.
And it's pretty difficult to go side by side through that chicane, so one of them would have had to back out anyway. And given that Cam Dance started at the front, he's taken the initiative there as well. Maleczka just in the grass a little bit will prevent him from getting through just for the moment. As we cycle back to Jose Soria, who's got a big couple of laps coming up and a big couple of overtakes to make as well.
But 25 laps about to be complete. Are we about to see primary compound drivers coming down to pit lane? Onto the brakes. Look at how much he closes. He's really wringing the neck, but he's getting caught up and now being forced to run the pace of those in front on the same compound of tyre. Maybe that's why Berryman elected for the double alternate, is so that he could make moves in situations like this when Jose Soria has to sit behind.
That's a big lock-up, by the way, for Josh Chin just up in front of them. That can't have been too good for him, but so important in these next few moments for Soria in these passes. He's actually being caught by Derek Toff all of a sudden, who has still got the fastest lap of this race, but it's because, oh, that was a big slide. Just saw him in the background. Jose Soria, I think he got in the grass just on the exit of turn 13, just into 14. Had an absolutely huge save to make and somehow managed it.
And well, it did. Saved it at the cost of some time at the end of the day. Definitely not what he would have been hoping for. Christian Hillgaard's also been off the track and also at the very, very fast run down into turn 5. So that would have been over the crest. I'm hoping that wasn't assisted, although he's not got a broken rear wing, does he?
No. So that's the all-important news. Oh, goodness me. There's
wow.
Well, can we call it a save? Sort of. But he's already, here it is. He doesn't even really get in the grass, does he? Just grazes the wall. He hits it so square that he's got away with it.
You say got away with it, but I get the distinct impression that he is... Ooh, that right front on the front wing does seem like it's compressed in a bit, which might cost some time, as here comes pit lane. Down to pit lane, I should say. Oscar Mangan, the Irishman, in the number 99, representing him. Just himself now, no longer flying the flag for Altus. Esports had a very quiet opening stint, but as Kawanda go long, Mangan comes in.
He doesn't look quite as obviously on his own that Eduardo Leo did at Indianapolis, does he? With a totally black car that looked like he'd just bought it from some warehouse about an hour before the race. He goes up on the jacks, and Mangan will be out after a relatively long stop, 9.2. Is a little bit longer than Peter Berryman did earlier anyway, as he makes his way back out again, making his first appearance, of course, this season in round 2.
And he is, quite crucially, switching on to the alternate. So it's time for him to charge hard. He's come out just in front of Blake Reynolds, just behind Rob Maleczka, so he's got to make a move, and now then he would be on the back of Soria and Toth, of course, having just come down pit lane, but he is a good, 2 12 seconds behind them. He's got some work to do. Check back in with your leader who's staying out there. Michael Gianni, though, peels off to driver's left-hand side.
Yeah, and that's going to open the gap now for Michele Costantini, who I think has paced himself really well in this opening stint of the race. It's possibly becoming clearer about his intentions to go only 2 stopping in this race as his lead opens up to about 5 seconds. Michael Gianni, the first of the 3 co-anda drivers inside the top 10 to make his way into pit lane. Pulls to the left right now and will go up on the jacks as a lap car who just passes him in pit lane. 9.2 it was for Oscar Mangan. Gianni out after 10.1. That's a long stop.
That's a long stop, and he is also on to the primaries once again. So as Oscar Mangan, already up to speed, escorts himself out through turn 1. He's up the inside, and he's surely going to be through. Remember, going to get those primaries up to temperature. It'll take a little bit longer. Gianni squeezed onto the exit curve, but you could just tell the lack of grip. Mangan on the button, trying to push his way a little bit further forward as well. But these drivers blinking a couple of laps earlier than their counterparts. Peter Berryman, though, flying. He's on the back of Christian Hilgard and only 11 seconds off of the race leader, who's now down to pit lane.
Yeah, with every lap that goes by here, by the way, Peter Berryman doesn't have as much pressure on him to make these overtakes because he knows how quickly these drivers will surely be making their way down pit lane, like Michael Romanidis is now as well, leaving Phil Kraus to go around and take the race lead. Pablo Espes also comes in, leaving Peter Berryman out in second. Phil Kraus is the only one then out, having not stopped yet.
So, busy time on pit lane. There's Hilgard as well. But where is this driver in the 66 going to drop and roll? It's going to be another lengthy stop, you'd imagine. 9.6 for him. Waiting to see Oscar Mangan fly through, but I think Costantini's going to have the advantage. Gianni going to come into picture as well. There is the number 23 directly alongside of Romanidis, who's going to have to tuck back into line.
Not great news for Gianni, to be honest. He started that cycle a fair way ahead of Michael Romanidis, but his long pit stop tied with his in-laps and out-laps there. Michael Gianni has lost out on a bit of time, I'm afraid, and now they're running right together. There are the 2 co-anda drivers. There's Phil Kraus starting to reap the disadvantages of staying out for so long. Not the traffic in that you're having to make overtakes, but actually you're having to put laps on people. Jesper Åhman is the one he nearly rear-ended there. Yeah,
that was too close for comfort, you'd have to say, but here he comes in the private label team height with Powerslide Motorsports entry. Team manager and team owner Tommy Milner may be watching on from afar. Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, the home of IMSA WeatherTech sports car racing this season. Josh Chin also down to the box, so they go 29 laps apiece as long as you can make it. Rob Malechka and Adam Crane potentially still going even further out in this opening stint of the race. I saw Crane peel off to the lane, but Malechka's going on to lap 29.
That's carrying on again. So yeah, when I said it, Kraus is the only one still out on the circuit, it's not quite true. Josh Chin still out there, but and as you say, Malechka is too, but they're not going to take the lead, is my point. Peter Berryman is back in the lead now, but yeah, we've seen a very long stint here for Malechka. But the question for me here is really who is going for a 2-stop race here, if anybody, because it clearly is possible on fuel, but the people on alternates early on didn't really want to take them very long. Now that could be a problem for those trying to make minimal stops.
And could this change the game? Yes, but Åhman's lost the front wing and is very, very far off the track. The problem is it's a little bit beyond where that hole in the wall is that naturally you'd be able to bring a car in. And so some have responded. They brought themselves down onto pit lane. Will the caution fly? Time will only tell. Rob Malechka, Jeff Drake, and Pascal Stix, the 3 drivers who are yet to come down onto pit box as the caution comes out.
Yep, caution's out on lap 31. Can Malechka go any further?
He's got no choice.
No, he can't go any further. He cannot go any further because he's going to run out of fuel. So, it would have been perfect timing if he could have gone longer, but he knows that he has to take this emergency service effectively.
That's crazy as well, given that he was maybe 10 seconds away from entering pit lane. Not sure if this is going to give him an end-of-line penalty from iRacing that would drop him to the back of the pack. The iRacing safety car process will now play itself on out, and for the second time today, we get to slow things down. Yes, but Åhman, Javi, Ross. Oh, Åhman's already got the rear end stepping out on him and goes for a jump and a big smash into the wall.
It's that cut through there to the alternate layouts here at Barber Motorsports Park that really, I actually don't think he can turn right anymore based on his steering angle there. We'll have a look at this. as he this is his slide, nearly saves it, and then that cut through there just bounces him straight across into the wall. Now we're not going to be able to. So he's trying to turn right, he just cannot do it anymore. So that's why he's out the race. Jesper Omer, by the way, one of the most experienced drivers in this field. A stat I found about him earlier on is that he made his debut. Made his debut in the Formula Sim Racing World Championship back in 2008.
Jesper Orman?
He's been around for a long time. Yeah.
What is it the same Jesper Orman?
Well, I hope so, but unless it's a clone.
No, to be fair, I don't think it can be. But wow, it just blew my mind, Ewan.
Well, it's. I hope it's true because I found it, but and it's with his name. But I'm willing to be proven wrong by him.
Well,
this is when I found out he's like 18 and he would have been about 6.
No,
or whatever.
I think he could be. It could be him. So it means that Phil Krause is not the only member of our field that's competed in the Formula Sim Racing World Championship.
I don't know. Did Krause ever do the World Championship?
Pretty sure he did.
He did. He definitely did Indy Pro for obvious reasons. But he may have done World Championship as well, to be fair. But there you go. I'll find out whether that's fake news or not.
Okay, here we go. Well, the person that reported the news is reporting if it's fake news or not. That's how it's reliable. We have to stack up behind the pace car, let's not forget. Track map shows a couple of the stragglers still at the tail end, and then a couple of those stationary on pit lane. Christian Steele, I think, alongside of Kevin Burrell and Marcos Nunez, all confirmed as DNFs. Adam Staten 30th is 6 laps down. We have 24 cars still left on the lead lap, though.
Yep, still plenty there. I'm wondering where those lap cars are, though, in terms of how are they going to get in the way of the leaders. Now, I don't mean that in a derogative way, but I just mean that they will legitimately be in the way. There's Sam Alexander, he's 1 lap down. Jed Munoz is 2. Jeff Drake is 1 lap down as well. Adam State still seems to be running, even though he's 6 laps down. He'll be somewhere in the train, but those are the guys, when you're 6 laps down or so, those are the guys more inclined to just get out the way entirely.
Seems like Jeff Drake might have an end-of-line penalty because he's letting a handful cycle their way on through. But it should not cycle Seb Alexander or Jaden Munoz, although having said that, Peter Berryman's just come down to pit lane, which means that those drivers are going to get a lap back. Seb Alexander and Jaden Munoz back onto the lead lap here in round 2 of the VCO IndyCar Challenge.
Yeah, that's the dream situation they were hoping for, the absolute dream, because I don't think they would have had much confidence that Berryman was going to come in there at all. But he has done, and now they'll get the wave around. That is absolutely dreamy for them. A disaster for Berryman, really, because he's been sent to the back.
Well, okay, so let's work backwards, right? We're going to go racing at the end of this lap, I'm pretty sure, because the lights are off on the pace car. 47 laps to go. I'm pretty sure that's basically just 1 more pit stop.
Oh, yeah, but, I mean, some of the others who's ahead of him now are going to make 1 more pit stop.
True. So I guess the question's going to become, he's emerged in, 14th position here?
Well, that's abnormal, but yeah, he has.
Yeah, well, it seems as though a couple of others came in. And remember, he would have come in from the front of the field. So he's just blended back into wherever he was meant to. So, this is... Yeah, I don't think it's as bad as it could have been. It's still bad.
It's one of the iRacing things I don't really agree with, when under caution you can just come out when you want.
I don't think you always can. That's why I was quite surprised as well.
Well, that's why I said it's abnormal that he's just in 14th. Unless Crane came in and but Reynolds has only made 1 stop so far, so he can't have been in just then.
Well, so
it looks like
Blaise Andrick on back did come down pit lane. So maybe what happened is the couple of drivers, so it's Crane, Reynolds, and Carasala alongside Javi Ross that are tucked in behind Peter Berryman and those other cars that pitted. I'm guessing that they just opened the pit exit. And because of where you get merged, remember, it's a shorter distance. Oh, it's like real world IndyCar. You remember what happened in Detroit a couple of years ago?
No,
you probably don't.
You'll have to tell me. No.
Yeah, no, don't worry. No, it wasn't Detroit. It was Nashville. Don't even think about it. That street circuit was terrible. Take my word for it.
I'm presuming it was the same circuit they used in IndyCar. I watched IMSA at Detroit earlier this year. Absolutely terrible.
Yeah, let's not talk about that. We get to go to Belle Isle, Ewan.
Yeah, exactly. I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, I love Belle Isle. I think it's a really good circuit, but I didn't like whatever they used this time.
Long Beach or Belle Isle? Which one is better in your mind?
to drive, but actually for both Detroit, actually. Although other people seem to be able to get good racing at Long Beach, I always used to get really bored around there.
Street circuits are a different type of race at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Ooh, and that was a taker down to pit lane. Couldn't quite tell who that was, but might have been one of the laps cars just trying to get out of the way. Here we go racing, though, with Jose Soria and Drago racing in control, but we're already alongside, a little bit further back in the pack, down to turn 1. Kawanda poking out on one another, but Nobu's being thrown inside of the top 10. It's Xavi Ross and Sam Karasala for a swap around for 16th, 17th, and 18th spots.
Yeah, no worries about anybody coming into pit lane on the restart, by the way. It was Adam State just trying to stay out of everybody's way. So the field set to go into the hairpin, and Oscar Mangan down the inside of Costantini, who is driving a pretty conservative opening part to this race, I've got to say. Staying out of trouble the best he can by running very wide and letting Mangan through, basically.
Well, that's an interesting little sequence as well, because Van der Sande and Oster are on the alternate compound tyre, which means that they're trying now just to make the stint go as long as possible without taking too much life out of the tyre. Flick their way through the S's, restart back underway on the 34th lap of this race, and if we do stay green, it works out at maybe around 50 more minutes of action. But Drago 1 and 2, Mangan behind, then 3 Kawanda cars lined up 4 through 6 as we end the opening lap after the restart.
Yeah, it's been a good restart again for everybody, especially for Oscar Mangan, who will surely be leading this race pretty shortly. That caution that just came out there was absolutely perfect for him, pretty much, as he's made already progress on Costantini, and now surely be able to get ahead of Soria and Toff pretty shortly as well. Also good news for those guys who are trying to make it on 2 stops, who will have got another lap or so of fuel saving in there during that caution.
Here comes Alexander Van der Sande to look to the outside on Christian Hilgard. This is alternates versus primary, so the softer compound giving a bit more grip the long way around. Van der Sande does not use another push to pass. Instead, it's Hilgard trying to use one to defend, and down to turn 7 once again, wheel to wheel. Van der Sande backs out.
Yeah, good move around the outside though for Hilgard to hang on round there. Doesn't go without saying that comes with a bit of bravery, and he stays in 9th place as they all make their way through the chicane again on another occasion. Now still 25 of them on the lead lap because Jaden Munoz is in again.
I think that might be just already trying to... Oh no, that's maybe some damage because he's there for a long time. Look at Van der Sande though, just trying to search. He's got so much more grip, so much more confidence. This pitch straight's a bit too short to really, though, take advantage with a push to pass. Soria punches in the fastest lap. Remember, 2 bonus points for the fastest race lap. 2 bonus points for leading the most laps as well to think about. Berryman trying to work his way forward, but nestled in 15th spot.
Yeah, it does have a real effect, of course. 2 points not insignificant in the point system that we have, as down the inside now goes... Oh, whoa! Oh, Hildegard, bit too far down the inside, and slight wheel-to-wheel contact made with Alex Van der Sande in the end. Jacob Oster looking to make his way through on the outside as a result.
And so as Peter Berryman gets in front of Cam Dance, Adam Crane also trying to work his way forward on the 111 Orbit Motorsports car. There is action up and down through the field. It's relentless on these restarts, with maybe a couple drivers thinking they're out of position. Sam Karasala's got a whole stack up behind him, including Reynolds, Andrich, Sticks, Taylor, Malechka, who, let's not forget, slightly caught out by the timing of the caution.
Exactly. I, by the way, still maintain that Peter Berryman has been really caught out by the timing of the caution, to be honest. Oh, is that very wide for Rob Malechka? He makes his way back on again, though, thankfully. Yeah, you say Berryman found his way past Dance. To be honest, he's just staying ahead of Dance. That's all he's doing at the moment. He's still 14th after the restart.
So 109.159 for him. A 108.090 for your race leader. Similar compound of tyre, albeit very different stages in terms of fuel consumption, expecting, of course, the Drago Racing pair to be in within the next 10 or so laps. Going to be a lot longer of a run up front for Peter Berryman as he tries to take advantage of his track position. Josh Chin very wide out of turn 5. Let's see how much time it takes for Berryman to make the move. Behind them, here comes Adam Crane to the inside of Cam Dance.
There he goes, and oh dear, that's very much... Oh, I thought he was going to go off the road for sure, but he's just kept it on. But he does lose 15th place. Adam Crane on a charge, trying to move up through the field, although it has cost them a lot of time. Look at the gap down to Berryman, who they were previously just about with. They're very much not anymore, but Dance would just be grateful to still be on the road.
Right on board with Sam Karasala in the Indy Alliance Racing entry. For a second I thought was going to have the lunge up the inside of the 111, just a little bit too far behind as they work back out of the final corner. Still plenty of push to passes to burn in these respective camps. Love the variety of musical instruments as well. There is something to be said for playing, I think, drums and bass and having a bit of a rhythm in a race car.
I wouldn't know because I can't do that. But
are you not very musical?
No, not really. No, but you could say that's why I was no good in a car as well. But that's a separate accusation, I think. Great big fan behind him as well, which is a thing you get as a racing driver because you don't have to worry about your sound.
Big
we don't. Yeah, he's big. Well done. Oh,
I had to. Joey Tebben's not here, so I had to do it.
Oh yeah, we've been pretty pun light so far because of him.
Oh yeah, exactly. I mean,
or the lack of him.
What's going to happen when we get Lewis McLean in the commentary booth at the end of the season?
Not.
Oh,
puns.
Alexander Van der Sande! Oh, Xavi Ross comes barreling in with no time to save the car, and Van der Sande fortunately not far away from pit entry. This will not see the caution fly once more.
Has Xavi Ross even come in? No. How Xavi Ross has got away with that, I do not know. He's steering straight, his front wing's still on. He has had a miracle, to be honest, because he came through at really high speed and smashed into Alex Van der Sande because he didn't really have anywhere else to go.
That was quite remarkable. The racing gods have smiled on that 04 Xavi Ross engineering powered entry. No surprise, I think, to hear Alexander Van der Sande back down on pit lane.
No, I'm not surprised to see that. I am surprised to see this car not in pit lane, though, because that is quite remarkable. Let's see it again here for Alex Van der Sande. He's not well, Hildegard just in front, but just clips the grass. So he tries to save it and does eventually, but Xavi Ross is coming up at quite high speed and ends up hitting him.
Right on board with Xavi Ross, and let's see exactly what he saw. I think that will tell us quite a lot as well. So Van der Sande just locks it down. I tell you what, I'm not sure how his front wing has not disappeared.
No, I'm not really. And at a better part of the circuit, or indeed another circuit entirely, he probably could have avoided that, but the option there for Ross was throw yourself into Van der Sande, either the wall on the right or the grass on the left, and in the end he just chose to go straight on.
Well, Josh Chin went wide, allows Peter Behrman to go straight on into 12th position. That helps the Apex Racing Team machine avoid losing a couple more tenths and seconds here and there as he tries to work his way back up into the top 10. He sits 12.5 seconds off of your race leader, and I wonder here if Oscar Mangan is just saving his alternate compound tires right now. Remember, expecting Soria in alongside David Toth inside of the next 7 or so laps. So Oscar Mangan 13 laps into the run on his alternates, probably wanting to switch back onto the primaries at some point. Can he extend this stint, or will he end up following in these two that he's running behind right now?
Well, let's see here. It certainly feels like he's tailed off a little bit and struggled for whatever reason to actually get past the two in front, where I actually thought he would race on through and race out to a lead, actually, but clearly doesn't quite possess that amount of speed. I think some of the credit has to go to Soria and Toff here. Don't forget, he's on, or they, both of them, are on the same tyres as the likes of Costantini and Gianni, yet they're still seconds ahead of those two.
On board, you just watch the hands. It's being smooth still. This is at the time when we did start to see the alternates fall off, I should say, in the opening stint of the race. What can Oscar Mangan pull out, though? Now 1 second off of the back of the two Drago racing cars, just continuing to etch themselves away. Likes of Pablo Espes, though, up 5 positions from where they started in the only running Wave Italy racing car. Luis Nunez, of course, missing in action, directly behind Phil Kraus right now.
Yeah, he's stuck a little bit, really, as a lot of the guys inside the top 10 actually are, sliding his way around the right-hander there. Such a tricky chicane, just basically flat out, but you don't want to get it wrong because you'll find yourself straight in the wall, as we saw Jesper Oman earlier on find himself. And then you get into the slower final couple of corners before getting yourself back onto the front straight. A fairly incomplete wall of track maps on his left there, by the way.
Glad you noticed. He does have the most important one, the Nordschleife, but then he's got Barcelona. I don't quite get that.
Might be where he's from, near where he's from.
That's a good point, actually. Of all the tracks, though, let's be honest.
It's random otherwise, yeah. It's quite random.
No.
But if it's your local track, you'd have a bit more love for it than maybe other people would.
See, the only real exception that I have come up with that I agree with is Laguna Seca, and there's a good reason for it. And there's a couple of drivers that actually have. I know a sim racer that has a tattoo of the track map of Laguna Seca, and the reason why is it's the very first track that was ever, brought into a video game with Gran Turismo 2 back in whatever it was, 1999, and so that is a legitimate reason for having a track map of a not great track. Because let's be honest, Laguna Seca's got one interesting corner that's not even the scariest corner on the track. There, I said it.
Not least because it's your local track as well.
See, I'm like equidistant from Sonoma to Laguna Seca, so which one should I claim?
Whichever one you like more.
But I don't like either of them that much, to be fair.
No, but you must like one more than the other.
Never been to Sonoma, so I don't know.
Oh, what? That's madness.
I've been to
But anyway.
Laguna a couple of times, but like the only things of relevance at Sonoma are NASCAR and SRO, and I've not gone out to either of them.
That's just sad.
I'm being political when I say I don't have much interest in going out to either of them either.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
I'd be straight out there, but I live in England, so that's not possible.
See, okay, to be fair, NASCAR does sound quite interesting. That I'll give
there
you that.
you go. Yeah, see?
SRO, it's just GT3 cars, and you know my feeling on GT3 cars right now.
Well, yeah, but it's if you've not seen them before, then...
Yeah, but I have seen them before.
Yeah, so have I, but not for years, so I would still go out. But,
I'd rather fly myself out to Daytona again to see the 24, because that was incredible. That was a lot of fun. Blake Reynolds kicks up a little bit of grass, but excuse me, there's no Travis Pastrana watching to give you a 10 on that little attempted trick as well. Malechka, that was a wiggle from him as well. This is the fight behind Sam Carasala for 15th. Very much settling into a rhythm right now, though, just waiting for those leaders to come down pit lane. They've dropped Oscar Magnan, though, crucially. Now not quite into the clutches of Costantini, but increasingly so. Last lap, Oscar Magnan just holding himself in no man's land.
Yeah, once again, I think we've got to give credit to Soria and Toth here. The teammates are working really, really well, and they're very quick too. They're the fastest drivers out there on the circuit right now, ahead of Oscar Magnan, who, by the way, is still going quicker than Costantini, Gianni, Romanidis, in fact, everybody else inside of the field. So so much credit has to go to these two for going very, very quickly indeed. And at the moment, that caution has come out at the perfect time. They are building a gap over Peter Berryman that they may be able to maintain.
But I think what we are going to see now is the fact that Costantini, Gianni, Romanidis yet to put themselves onto the alternate compound of tyre. So they still have that in reserve. The question will be, how long can they split it up? Given that we've got, we're expecting these leaders in sooner rather than later. So they're going to split this race pretty equidistant, you'd imagine. Josh Chin fights with Adam Crane further behind. Crane back up now to 13th after being tangled up in the opening lap incident. But if you're Costantini, you can go another 10 laps from here. Ewan, does that mean you're going to basically do 2 short stints on the alternate?
I think I think a lot of the guys at the front who are doing a 3-stop will do 2 more short stints on the alternates. So I don't actually think that Costantini doing that is a real worry for the front two, because I think they're doing that too.
I don't think they can. It wouldn't be that short a stint for them. It's still a relatively lengthy run. We'll have to wait and see. Jose Soria, 26 laps in, and he's heading up towards pit entry. Is he going to go to the left? Yes, and his teammate will follow him in. So right on cue. Here comes Drago Racing.
They can do a 17 and an 18 lap stint. I don't think that's out of the realms of possibility. So or maybe they'll do 1 of each. We'll see what happens, but it's definitely going to be 2 more, including the one they're about to do. And let's hope, for David Toth's sake, that he actually makes his box this time.
He slid through crucially in that first cycle. Cost him some track position. Had to work hard to fight back to the front. And now hits his mark, this time with authority, up on the jacks, 4 Firestone tyres. And what is it? Alternates, primaries, have to wait for them to drop and roll. Toth and Soria both on the alternate, and Jose Soria emerges just in front of his teammate. They've got traffic though, and into that fight behind Sam Carasala, which is now for 13th spot.
This is the real danger for them now, the crucial point in the race. This is, and Toph's in the grass out the outside as well, and so is Sawyer. This is such a dangerous part in the race. They have to get this right. They have to get through the traffic as quickly as possible, because Costantini will not have anything like this to deal with.
This is ideal for some of these push-to-passes. Blake Reynolds going to give way as well. Sori and Toph now just have to find a way past him. Malechka dance, and then a little bit up the road to find Sam Karasala, who's broken away in that Indy Alliance Racing entry as they flip their way through the S's once more. This is really settled in nicely. Yes, the couple of cautions may have interrupted some of the strategies. You think Peter Berryman chief amongst them, Ewan, but we've still got a rip-roar of a race on our hands.
We certainly do, that's for absolutely sure, but I just think Berryman's going to be a bit of a sitting duck really. He's going to look back to that second caution and think, that's where I maybe lost the race. Not that I think he could have done a lot different with his strategy, I just think it came out at the wrong time for him because he went for those double alternate stints at the beginning. There goes Sawyer down the inside. Rob Malechka, the third, has been overtaken again, and Darren Toph will do the same here.
Well, this is all happening as those Drago racing cars trying to fight their way forward. It's going to cost them a little bit of time, yes, but this is going to help Toth if he can make the move on Cam Dance. He's on the button. Dance forces him to shuffle the long way around, but the Orbit Motorsports car not going to put up the fight. And again, this is, remember, where different drivers racing their own individual races right now. Back up front, Oscar Mangan onto the 21st lap of his stint, 2.6 clear of Costantini.
I wonder how far Mangan is wanting to stretch this right now, because we're in that realm where you just want to go those few more laps so that you can put some primaries on and go to the end of the race. That's what I think everybody's hoping for here in the top 12 or so, the top 10 or 12.
So, about to hit the 30 laps to go marker. Remember, if you can go as far as 27 laps, sorry, I have to come back to what I was saying. It's just going to be a very slow run on the alternates from these drivers because they can do it on one stint. Question is that the fastest way on the tyre?
Well, exactly. I think if you're choosing between a really slow alternate stint or a primary stint where you can actually push, I know which one I'd choose. Anyway, you want to be pushing on the primary tyres because there will be a cut-off point anyway. There's no point driving the red stripe tyres slowly. So I think that we'll be seeing primary stints towards the end, but just depends how much further these guys are going on fuel, how much danger they're in terms of fuel, because actually I've been surprised by how many are even getting to this stage in the race, still in the realms of a two-stop.
So David Toth has got to pass Sam Karasala, very helpful there, and allowing that second Drago car to cycle through. And so now up to 13th for these two after coming down pit lane. And remember, at least another 3, 4, maybe 5 laps before we get Oscar Mangan back on to the lane. At that point, it probably is not his final stop of the race, I would think. It would be very marginal. It's behind, there's a little bit more buffer in terms of the fuel window right now. Where's Peter Berryman, you may wonder? He's tucked in behind Javi Ross. He still could be one to challenge on the end in a very short stint on the alternates.
Will it be a short stint on the alternates, though? Will it have to be another primary stint? I think he might just be able to go far enough for an alternate stint. I think that is very much true. But, as I said earlier on, I think that second caution has really come out at the worst possible time for him, because don't forget, he was the only one on his strategy. So we're not really talking about it like a whole group of drivers was caught out like they were at Indianapolis. Darren Toff was one of them, Sam Coiter another, and some of the guys on their strategy as well. They were really caught out in Indianapolis, losing a lot of track position. But since Berryman was absolutely on his own, it doesn't feel like it's been that big moment in the race, but he's been the quickest man so far today, and yet he's still only 9th.
And I'll go back to Thursday night, the opening round of the Indy Cup Butt Kicker qualifying series, where Apex just looked like they had a car on rails around Long Beach, which is not normal, right? It's so bumpy. It's one of those tracks that really does challenge the driver to then be confident and push the limits of the track and the walls as well. Luke McEwen first, Peter Berryman third, Jose Soria in second. It was a very good day for a couple of our drivers. David Toss just punched in the fastest lap of the race, though. Here's your race leader, Oscar Mangan.
1.9 seconds. You can see what I said earlier on about Mangan still holding a pace that, while was not as quick as Soria and Toff, was at least quicker than the rest of the field. Well, that's not true anymore. Last time around, he had the rest of the top 10, apart from Jacob Oster, go quicker than him, and he's struggling. Look at the way he missed the apex there.
Yeah, those alternates very much at the end of their life now, and you've got to think he is just trying to get within the window where he can do it on one more stop. 30 to go. He's about 3 laps shy right now. That would mean a 27-lap stint to bring him into the pit lane and to leave the pit lane as well. So a little bit of mirroring there, I think, kind of what he was hoping to see. Back in the pack, let's check out some of the fighting. Pascal Stix just got past Blaise Andrich. This is the fight for 18th.
Well, he's done remarkably well, hasn't he, Pascal Stix, after losing a rear wing earlier on, the core sim racing driver. Back out in towards turn number 1 again, moving forward into 18th now on the lead lap. Maybe luckily, you could say, but he will say it's all been planned out, and he's moved up ahead of the likes of Andrix, who are actually leaving behind the likes of Matt Taylor and those who have made quite a few stops in quite a few cautions today.
Yeah, now as Jaden Munoz, who is, let's not forget, 1 lap down, cycles through. Car plenty quick, we should expect him to potentially try and get back onto the tail end of the lead lap if possible. Now, Oscar Mangan, he's down on pit lane, so he's not going to be able to get to a window that I think gets him comfortably to the end on a 1 stop, unless he thinks he can do 29 laps, and he's going to do it on the primaries.
I can't see a way in which he makes it without a caution, but he may be banking on one. He may think, well, I might as well try and make it to the end on 1 tank of fuel with a caution, because that probably would help him as well if there were to be a caution, especially soon. He would cycle right up to the front behind the likes of Toth, and he might be cycling into the lead. He might be the only one not to stop under a caution if were one to come now. He's got an alternate, never mind.
Yeah, he has gone on alternate, so I have to assume there's no way he can do 29, and he is just going to do 2 slightly shorter stints on the softer compound of tar. Fortunately, he came out in front of Cam Dance. Didn't have to do the dance with him, Reynolds, Stix, and maybe Blaise Andrich as well, but he is good. A good 10 seconds off the back of Jose Soria now, so there's some work to do. Speaking of, Adam Crane putting up a stern defense right now. Can Soria make the move after they work their way out of the final sector?
Sorry, can't do it into the final chicane here. And gets a little bit loose over the hill. Guess that happens fairly often, but it doesn't make me wince any less. Through the penultimate corner now at turn 14, and now through 15, out onto the front straight. Difficult circuit to overtake on sometimes. Only really got 1 opportunity down in towards turn number 5, but that opportunity is coming right up here. Through the hairpin they go. Look how close he is there. Jose Soria didn't quite get the run, but he'll get the push to pass going here, and he will be down the inside of Adam Crane now. Jose Soria through into the top 10 again.
Adam Crane gives him all that space on entry. You can see him in that rig with the ultra-wide monitor. Always fun to see the different looks that the drivers are running around on track with. Have plenty of them with the ultra-wides, especially in these open-wheel cockpit machines. A couple of them with triple screens, couple in VR as well. Cam Dance, Blake Reynolds, they're side-by-side down to turn 7. Not the only bits of side-by-side. Here comes Brian Carey and Andrew Marquez shuffling their way to the same corner as well.
Well, they don't go side-by-side into the actual chicane, because that would be almost, that would actually be a terrible idea for both of them, in fact. So they sort it out. So they make their way out of the corner. Xavi Ross has come in from the top 10. Now we might just be getting into that region where you can pit and make it from here.
So one of our drivers in VR, Brian Carey. So Xavi Ross probably going to come out right at the tail end of the lead lap cars. Probably just in front of a handful of these drivers. It is interesting that David Toth is burning through his push to passes right now, but I think partially because he wants to get past Adam Crane. He's got just 3 left to use over the rest of the race. Contrast that against the top 4 right now, who with 54 laps about to be complete, have not touched the button once.
Well, I think the way that, especially Soria and Top, actually, the teammates, both of them, are using the push to pass is probably a better idea. Think about the way that you use it around you. It's not like Indianapolis, where you've got 2 really obvious places to use them. And in the final laps, you can actually get through them quite quickly, as Eduardo and Veyron displayed last time, though. It doesn't really matter if you've both got them because they sort of offset each other. So use them earlier on when not everyone is using them. Make use of them, but also try and use them when you're making overtakes, making your way through the field, rather than trying to make a last gasp overtake. Use them to try and maximise what you know you can get from this race, and that's part of the reason, I believe, why Soria and Toff has been able to move through the field so quickly. They're not going to have them in the bank at the end of the race, but who cares? You don't get any extra points for not using them.
See exactly if those drivers up front do elect to be a little bit more free with it. Moving forward, Jacob Oster gives a wide berth to Adam Crane. That's a move just inside of the top 10. That sees the Team i5G car slide back down and allow Satellite Racing's number 29 after starting, let's not forget, in 19th spot. Crane involved in the incidents on the opening lap. Now back up into 10th. It's been a very, very solid day and minimizing the damage. Here comes, by the way, leaders down to pit lane. So Michele Costantini comes in with what will be 25 to go. He's going to put the alternate tyres on, and he's not going to come back to pit lane before the end of the race.
Two Coanda drivers following one another in. Michael Jardy also into pit lane. And yeah, the strategy choice for this point in the race, pretty obvious really, but it displays to me really a surprising amount of drivers at the front of the field, especially who have gone for just a two-stop race in this one. Yeah, a bit puzzling really, but that's what they've elected to go for. And well, we'll see who comes out on top with their respective strategies. There goes Costantini in 11th.
Oscar Mangan just slides on through, so there is now that move to be made. But remember, all these drivers will be on the alternates. Costantini and Johnny just can't push them. We're expecting Mangan to make an additional trip down pit lane, though, so don't really have to fight him wheel to wheel. See what happens, though, with the 4 still yet to come down pit lane, which makes it a slightly easier fuel save for them, maybe, if they are even going to slightly short fill. B, less time on the tires, and that's why Phil Kraus goes out one lap longer. Michael Romanidis in, Pablo Espez in, Christian Hilgard in, but not Kraus in that number 19.
Oh well, don't forget that Kraus stayed out a lap longer than everybody else in the first stint. Clearly he is pretty frugal with fuel, and is now leading the race because of it, ahead of Peter Berryman, then Jose Soria, then David Toff. Look at how much further Soria and Toff are ahead of the rest, but they will have to stop again, whereas we don't know if some of the others will, presuming not, and I guess they will have to as well, just to make sure that they're aiming at this race properly. Frugo, Mangan and Costantini. There goes Gianni as well. Pascal Stix very much involved in this as well. 10th place for Stix now. He's made 2 stops so far today. Surely he isn't going to the end.
Now he's going to come down to pit lane in the next handful of laps, but that will be his final trip down to the box. I think he was one of those that came in the first cycle down pit lane as a result of our opening lap caution, slightly skewing how those strategy numbers play out. So Kraus is going to still yet to come down pit lane. Berryman's now 4.5 seconds off the back of him. And then Jose Soria only another 4 seconds away. So Kraus going to come in at the end of lap 57, steps the rear end out. But a very, very tidy and efficient stint overall from the private label Team Hype driver. Meanwhile, Oscar Mangan feels the pressure. Here comes Costantini in the rear view mirror.
Yeah, really closing in very quickly and knowing how important this is too. And just feel Mangan holding himself back maybe a little bit during these opening parts of the stint. 1 minute 8.9 is quite slow for someone on the new red stripe tyres there. 9.1 from him last time as well. There's 2 people here at very different stages of their race. Costantini very much in a pushing stage of his and looking to find his way through as Phil Kraus makes his way past Pascal Stix pretty immediately here.
Phil Kraus around the outside. Now remember, he is on fresh alternates, so very much one of those situations where not expecting Stix to put up too much of a fight. He's got 2.2 to close to the back of Michael Romanidis. He's about 6 seconds off the back of Michele Costantini, who, if we're thinking about him as being the leader on this strategy, that's the margin Kraus is going to try and close with a 2-lap shorter stint. Here comes Peter Berryman, let's not forget. He'll be a couple more seconds behind Kraus. Does that mean he's going to be behind Stix and Espez?
Let's see. I wouldn't be willing to guess where he's going to come out, actually. Got no idea. It's so clumped, isn't it, between maybe from Mangan right the way down to Espez in 8 9, maybe if you had Hildegard and Andrix, good 10 drivers in there, 8 to 10 drivers who are really not covered by very much at all. Whatever happens here, Berryman's going to end up in traffic, that's for sure.
Yeah, so off and away as there go the couple of cars in that little battle. He's going to emerge even behind Christian Hildegard, and he is on the primary compound of tyre. So with 22 to go, he doesn't think that it's worth switching on to the alternates. They're not limited in how many of each compound they have active. Costantini now is officially in second spot. David Toth has already made his final trip down to pit lane, and he's battling with Adam Crane as they run their way to turn 5.
Yeah, but I agree with Berryman, by the way. I think the primaries at this stage in the race are the better choice as well. I just think the likes of Costantini and some of the others haven't used the alternates yet, so they've sort of had to. As David Toff, not one of them, of course, but he's battling hard with Adam Crane now. Neither of them wanting to give up into turn 7, and that's damaging for Toff as he can't find his way through.
And that's why his teammate Jose Soria continues just to stay out there and try and build that established gap that he needs. At this stage, though, question will just become for Costantini, what lap times is he going to do? 108.376 that time. We'll see the fall off and how it trends in comparison. Are we going to compare against Peter Berryman? Is that the most apt target? 12 seconds behind the number 66?
I don't know who to target Costantini against, because Mangan, to me, is saving his tyres to go to the end, I think.
He's got to save fuel as well.
And that, yeah, true. Costantini is not saving anything, clearly, so I don't believe he can make it to the end. But as I said before, I think he's been forced onto these alternates because he hasn't used them yet. So who is he really racing against?
Can definitely make it to the end, for the record. He can do 25 laps on the alternates. Yeah,
but what state are they going to be in at the end? I mean, David Toff just came in after about 10. And by the way, I think that's a weird call too. I've got no idea why he came in, because Soria's times are still decent, so I wouldn't have thought why Toff's would be much worse.
I think you had to split them up and try and cover off maybe a potential safety car, because I think if you get caught out now, Soria drops to the back and puts you in a very difficult situation. But we've got 20 laps to go here then, as Soria leads by 11.3 seconds. We know the Drago Racing 25 owes us a pit stop. We think Oscar Mangan will owe us a pit stop as well. Pascal Stix has just come in from inside of the top 10. Everyone else surely good to the end.
By the way, I think we're going to get to... it might be different when we get to the end, but I don't think anybody's got this strategy right. I think it's who's got it least wrong is going to win this race, to be honest, because I think everyone's just been knocked slightly out of kilter a little bit with everyone else because of all the cautions, because of fuel loads and trying to make it on 2 stops. Do we go for 3 instead? And all of the different complications that we've had in this race. I don't think anybody's quite got it right, though, to be honest. We'll wait and see by the end, of course, because surely the winner will say, well, of course I got it right, and that may well be true. But it's been a weird race so far for strategy.
So Pascal Stix comes out in front of Blake Reynolds and Cam Dance, who now squabbling in and amongst themselves with some push to passes being burned as well. They're fighting just inside of the top 20, but you now officially are starting to figure out where the players are. Michael Johnny's caught up to the back of Oscar Mangan, who, like you say, very much saving his tyres right now. He did a 109.650 last time by. That was 8/10 slower than Costantini in comparison.
Yeah, and that's, again, why I do truly believe he's saving tyres and fuel, and not sure whether that's the best idea or not, really, but he's going to create some more gaps and battles like this, I've got to say. Michael Gianni and Michael Romanidis right behind him now. Gianni using push to pass on the way towards here. That's a bit of a waste. He's not going to get through there without some real brave move. So he'll spend some more time stuck behind Oscar Mangan here.
Fun little story. These are two teams that... Oh, well, I say two teams. Oscar Mangan used to be part of the Altus collaboration with Coanda in the Porsche Esports Super Cup, so they're familiar with working each other, but now they're locking horns as Jose Soria down to pit lane at the end of what is lap number 62 for him. So he blinks, and now we'll find out if he's going to go on to alternate. Surely he would, with just 18 laps to run.
Yeah, again, I'll reiterate, no idea why Davidov didn't go for it, because he's found himself now stuck behind Adam Crane on the wrong tyres. But anyway, that's a different story. Soria into the pit lane, up on the jacks, and will lose a lot of positions, but he will have the tyres to make them up again, as long as he puts the right one on 8.2 seconds in the lane. He does go for the alternates. Now it's time to see how many overtakes he can make in just 18 laps.
And a comparison between Toth and Soria. Toth just coming through turn 2 now. He's that far behind. Michael Johnny's made the move on Oscar Mangan out through turn 5. An important move as well, because now he's 3.5 seconds behind his teammate Costantini up front. Romanidis has to get past Mangan to make it a Kawanda lockout at the podium spots. But with 17 to go, the purple and orange are rising their way up front.
They certainly are, and it wouldn't be out of the question to see them 3 in the top 3 in a few moments' time. Michael Romanidis will be hoping he can make his way through on Oscar Mangan very, very quickly indeed. These two competing for the best placed of those who are making their season debut here in round 2.
And Phil Kraus spring a surprise as well. Let's not forget he's got 2 lap fresher tyres than Johnny, 1 lap fresher than Romanidis according to my timing screen. Got to get past Mangan, and they've got those push to passes to burn in reserve as well. Wow, this is going to be an exciting end to the race. Pablo Espez is not far behind as well. Christian Hilgard's in the mix. And Peter Berryman, let's say these alternates do fall off. He's there and hoping to be proven right on his tyre choice in the closing stages of this race. That was Michael Romanidis just having a look to the inside to tell Oscar Mangan, hello, I'm here.
By the way, the only driver ahead of Peter Berryman who was quicker than him last time round was Phil Kraus. And that was only by 0.04 of a second. So don't count out Peter Berryman from this race just yet. He's on the best tyres to the end here. As I said earlier on, I firmly believe that Kawanda, had they not had the tyre constraints, would have put on primaries too.
Yeah, but that's why they didn't use the alternates at the start of the race, so they had to do it at the end.
Yeah.
And maybe the fact that we were going later into the day played into their mind as well. David Toth, by the way, has got just 1 more push to pass left to use, and he's got plenty more fighting with which to work. Romanidis out of the penultimate corner, throws a move out of nowhere. He makes his way forward into 30, burns a push to pass instantly, tries to get out of dodge. It's Phil Kraus next in line to try and slide past the Irishman, who again, we think has got to try and pull a rabbit out of his hat to try and get to the end of this race.
Yeah, think so, and Phil Kraus is going to be getting through on very, very quickly indeed, although Mangan has picked up his pace a little bit in recent times compared to those around him. That might just be because he's slowing them down around him. He goes for a cutback on this occasion, through turn 5, very well executed. Kraus could have probably saved his push to pass for this part of the circuit. He didn't need to in the end. He goes down the inside at turn 7 and gets 4th place.
And that was Oscar Mangan, I think, recognising, you know what, you should have probably done a better job of passing me at turn 5, get it done now, let's stop costing each other some time. David Toth is still behind Adam Crane. This is frustration city building up in that number 8, the second of the Drago Racing entries, with a bit of a lock-up on the right front. They dive down the hill, and with 15 laps to go at the line, here comes your leader, Michele Costantini, followed by Michael Johnny and Michael Romanidis. It's Kawanda 1 through 3 as they sit right now.
Yep, all I can do is apologise to David Toff for picking him at the start of the day, because it's gone very downhill here, hasn't it? Down in 12th place, but anyway, we've got a new set of contenders for this race, and to be honest, still no idea which of them is going to come out on top. Michele Costantini is leading those who are sort of put another set of alternates on with about 27 or so laps to go. If they all need to stop again, then he'll be first of them. If they don't, then he'll be the last of them to be overtaken by everybody else, although Phil Kraus is on the newest tyres of all of them, so maybe he'll be quickest of them. Oscar Mangan might be going to the end, so if they're not going to the end, then he might come towards the front. Peter Berryman's probably on the best tyres, so he might come to the front. It's just a complete strategy minefield, and I don't really know who's in the lead.
No, I think as it sits right now, I'm confident in Costantini. That call to start from the outside of the front row in the primaries may be slightly surprising given that everyone else around him was on the alternates, but it's definitely set them up in the way they wanted. Look at the weather conditions. It's not much cooler by any means, but it is a couple degrees cooler, which does help those tires last that little bit longer. David Toff, that frustration, I can't imagine how much has been building up so far, but Adam Crane on the alternate tires, at some point he's going to start to feel the fall off.
Yeah, I mean, here's the danger of using the push-to-passes in the way that I was talking about earlier on, and why he might have wanted to save them a little bit earlier, because he really could have used one right now. I mean, he has used a couple, actually, to try and make his way through, but he's not got any left, so he's going to have to be very, very sparing indeed, so, or has had to be very sparing indeed, so it's a bit of a disaster, really, and now that he's in this situation. I don't see how he can get himself out of it without the use of a push to pass, and as we know, it's going to be a long time until we see a mistake from the driver in front, so don't see what he's going to do about this, really.
Yeah, Josh Chin is only 1 second behind, and he slightly closing. It was about 4/10 last time that he was able to eat into this advantage. They're running out of time, though, to make moves, and that is something to keep in mind, because as Costantini now around 4 seconds clear, 13 to go this time by. Phil Kraus gets closer to Michael Romanidis. Romanidis gets closer to Michael Gianni. All this, the fight for second, third, and fourth more than anything.
Yeah, it is. It's quite a few seconds away from the race lead here of Michele Costantini. He's in a world of his own, really. He's certainly executed their strategy the best so far, because effectively they have all been on the same, although he did qualify the best of them. Still, he's pulled out quite a margin. I think that the job really is for Phil Kraus here. He's on the newest tyres of everybody. Can he make that count?
Or are we also looking behind them to see if Pablo Espes and Christian Hilgard, next two in line to pass Oscar Mangan, who, remember, is going to have to stretch this stint out a quite remarkable 29 laps compared to the rest of the drivers around him. It is asking for quite a lot. And let's see if he is having to employ some hyper-miling strategy to get the most from his car. Meanwhile, Peter Berryman, Jose Soria, maybe two of the fastest drivers in terms of raw speed. Strategy hasn't always fallen in their direction today. They fight right now for 8th.
Yep, they are. And Soria really needs to get through here, but if Berryman wants to win this race, I don't think he can let Soria through, because those two are both drivers we absolutely know are going to the end, as Pablo Espes has made his way through. Certainly an unorthodox place to do it, but anywhere will do at this stage.
And so now it's Christian Hilgard's turn to try and latch his way up into 6th spot. I've got to say, what a great run for him in that satellite racing entry. They have Alexander Russell and Adam Crane also representing the traditionally blue and red team, but it's Hilgard the one that today has made sure to fly the flag strong. Behind, Jose Soria slides on through on Peter Berryman. Berryman on those primary compound of tyres, just not having the grip to fight back.
Yep, I don't think so. I mean, again, he's done the best with the situation he's had, Peter Berryman, but it's just not been the best set of cards dealt to him, I'm afraid. And he will know that. He'll be very disappointed indeed to come away with anything other than a win, to be honest, after getting pole and starting the race in the way that he has done. I believe he's probably, especially over one lap, maybe even over the race distance, has probably been the quickest driver not objectively, but, you know, all things being equal, but all things are never equal.
And what's happened to Pablo Espes, because he just made that move, got past the pair of Mangan, Hilgard as well, and now one small slip up, suddenly finds himself back in the pack. Oh, it's into the final couple of corners. It's a fast entry. He's out wide. He's on the grass. And that bobble's going to cost him. He's down to 7th.
He'll be livid with himself for that. That was a completely unforced error. Just after doing the hard yards, passing Oscar Mangan, he lets Christian Hilgard through as well, who, by the way, just gave it a go against Oscar Mangan there into the hairpin. Now he's giving it another go into 7. Oh, don't think he quite made it. No, he wasn't quite alongside, but now there's a real train developing.
And Jose Soria, Peter Berryman, they've been latched into this fight. 10 to go at the line. Your leader continues to stretch their legs. I can tell you what, right now, I don't think there's any catching Michele Costantini. Feisty Italian's going to just spirit himself away at the front of the field and put all these other drivers in his dust and not even be concerned about them. But this fight inside of 5th position, Hilgard will throw the move up the inside. He'll make it stick as well. And now, what can he do to break away from the charging Espes, Soria and Berryman behind?
He needs to make sure he's okay in turn 1 first, and yeah, he certainly is. So now he's got to turn his sights up ahead as well, but I think he's got to hope for things to go wrong for those ahead, really. Even if he catches a second a lap, he'd barely get to Costantini in time, and even that's with another few overtakes in the meantime, as Jose Soria gets down the inside of Pablo Espes. Now, these are all positions that drivers are not willing to give up now.
Very, very valuable points being paid out here as well, let's not forget. And these are some drivers that will be looking to establish themselves, that is for sure. Adam Crane and David Toth, are we finally going to see that move? Crane's going to switch it back. Toth squirrels on the outside and now uses what is his final push to pass. Crane tries to respond, but I tell you what, Toth has been patient. He finally gets his move.
He had to. He absolutely had to. Look how much time that's cost him. Jose Soria is 10 seconds off the lead. David Toff is 22.8. That is the amount of time that he's cost himself in traffic here today. And that is exactly why he's barely going to scrape a top 10 from this race.
And two teammates who, again, look very similar in terms of their speed on track itself. Just that execution of strategy and how the chips ended up falling for them. Josh Chin has his chance now to try and pass Crane. He's got a couple more push to passes in the bank as well. Let's hope he's got the fuel to take advantage. Right, your leader's gone. Almost 5 seconds clear. There is no fight. Do we have 3 cars, though, fighting for 2 spots on the podium, with Phil Kraus hungry to take it away from the two Michaels, Johnny and Romanidis?
Yeah, I'll admit to being, by the way, a bit surprised that Michele Costantini is so far ahead with such speed, even at this stage in the race. These tyres have held up really well for these guys compared to some of the other stints we've seen from others in today's race, where they've been struggling to make the distances that they're attempting to at the moment, but they're hanging on very, very well indeed. It is between 3 for second at the moment, Johnny, Romanidis and Kraus, but are they going to be joined by any of that second group? Hildgaard might be tricky to get there. Mangan certainly will be, because he'll be struggling with his tyres. But for some of the others, the likes of Jose Soria especially, might be wanting to get involved for a late podium charge.
That was a really wide arc from Oscar Mangan. It caught Pablo Espez out by surprise on the bottom of your screen in that fight for 6th position. And so, eyes out the back of your head somewhat needed to try and follow along with all the different fights brewing on track in these closing stages. Let's try and keep our attention up to the front, where there are significant points up for grabs. No move for second into turn 5 this time by. Here comes Jose Soria on the button, forced the long way around. Can Pablo Espez cover the inside? Peter Berryman's trying to sneak his way, and his nose up there as well. Soria's going to hold on.
Yeah, the better exit there for sure did him wonders. Pablo Espez gets on the push to pass too. That will ensure he stays ahead into this final chicane. And now we're in the 10 laps. Start to see a lot of push to pass being used here. Not everyone's been using it in the way that Soria and Toff have been. Using it up already in the race. They've been saving it back, some of them, and now they're beginning to use it. Here comes Peter Berryman using push to pass at a very abnormal place to go. Oh, contact! Oh no!
It was bound to happen. Berryman wasn't going to lift. Soria didn't want to concede on the right foot. And Berryman's the one that's going to pay the biggest price. The side pod on the car dangling. And surely he's going to limp that car around for as long as he can before he's told to bring it in.
Well, he's still going, even despite a part of his car on the left-hand side hanging off very visibly there. Let's see what happens on the way into this chicane. Just on the outside, and I don't know if he quite affords himself enough room on the outside there. Difficult to tell from that angle. He just doesn't get a very good run, sorry, and so that allows Berryman alongside. And I think he just turns a little bit early compared to what Soria was.
There's a bit of netcode between them, but that's a corner that I think you were surprised they were going to even try and go side by side through there.
I mean, I couldn't believe Berryman got on the push to pass towards turn 11. That's ridiculous. I mean, has anyone even done that yet today? I haven't seen them.
Not that we've seen.
No, but then again, as I said before, we're in the last 10 laps of the race. Expect to see more push to passes. Expect to see people just trying to make moves wherever, because this is where we're at now. This is what you've got to fight for.
No, I think that is true. 6 to go at the line. It should be for your leaders. Costantini continuing just to stretch his advantage. Johnny and Romanidis holding Kraus at bay. And here comes yet another charge around the outside. Jose Soria on his final push to pass. Pablo Espez trying to defend. I tell you what, they're going to give each other the room, but Espez can only watch as Soria, even with maybe some damage, forward to 7th.
Yep, good pass. Very good pass around the outside, actually, to make his way through, but it's the kind of thing we've been expecting from Soria in the final stint of the race. We're expecting a bit more from him, actually. He's expecting at least a top 5, but he's only 7th for now. And the gap that's been created in front of Oscar Mangan, sped into by Christian Hildgaard, is going to be very difficult for Jose Soria to get involved with in the amount of time we've got remaining. Very much in the time now where there's too little time to really catch another group anymore. You're sort of in the group that you're in at the moment.
Oh, my heart just skipped a beat. Oh, Michele Costantini just flickered on my timing screen. Woo! Calm down. No technical issues with 5 laps to go, please.
No, oh yeah, I thought that as well, actually. Now I'm looking back. Yeah, that wasn't good news, but he's okay. To be honest with you, again, I don't know whether it's just me. I've been very surprised with the way these guys have been able to go in these the top 4 especially on these alternates at the end, especially when I look back to the start of the race and how far people were able to go on alternates and just what these guys have been able to do, what pace they've been able to retain. I mean, I know Costantini only did a 9.6 last time round, but even so.
And I'm going to say, Kawanda would say to your point, Ewan, they got the strategy just right. So we'll have that discussion with them post-race. Oscar Mangan's just been passed by Jose Soria. Peter Berryman, I think, is going to lose out to both Adam Crane and Josh Chin, who are directly behind. That car is not healthy. Look how it pitches around into the braking zone. Yeah, straight off there. And by the way, while that was going on and I was blathering on, Phil Krause went off. That's why he's lost a couple of seconds. He went off at turn 5. Just saw it, may have seen it in the bottom of your screen there, while we were looking at weather conditions and chatting about my potential lack of grasp on strategy. Here it is, into the turn 5. I don't really know how he got that wrong, but he just did. Bit too aggressive, bit too overcommitted on the brakes there, and Phil Krause fortunately is going to hold on to 4th. It does, though, I think, establish Kawanda 1, 2, and 3. As it sits right now, lingering question may just be, can Oscar Mangan nurse this car to the end? He's only got to get 4 more laps out of the fuel tank and the tyres.
It would be very impressive if he can do it, but I think that the returns are potentially massive for him. For someone who wasn't at the first round, to get a top 10 even would be a great performance for him and a great start for him as well in this season. There's no reason why someone who misses 1 round of this season can't still win the title, given how topsy-turvy these first couple of rounds have been.
Especially if we're going to get a couple more drivers missing the next rounds, right? Redline are all out in force in the iRacing 24 Hours of Spa, but they will be back for the remaining rounds of the championship, kicking off from Iowa Speedway. And I can't wait to announce who our invited drivers are going to be, because I think they might shake things up in their own unique way as well. Back up front, though, with what will be 3 to go, is Michael Romanidis closing on his teammate. Is there traffic in front that could make it interesting between them on the run to the checkered?
Well, it is literally just between them at the moment. It's going to be, as things stand, a Kawanda 1, 2, 3. Now, I don't remember the last time I saw that happen in a series of this level quite. 1, 2, 3. You see 1-2s very regularly, but a 1, 2, 3 with such dominance in a final stint of a race has been hard to come by in recent times, and Kawanda look like they're about to achieve it. In fact, they are catching the leader right now, by the way. 4/10 of a second on that last lap. This may be some of the reason for it.
Yeah, there is traffic, and Costantini is having a couple of little blips here and there just behind. Jeff Drake pulls to the side. That gap, though, 1 corner, 1 second, instantly lost. It's Marquez behind Andrich and Alexander tucked in behind the both of them. They will have 3 laps to go at the line. I don't think Michele Costantini is going to try to pass these drivers. He's likely to sit behind and wait to see the white flag next time around.
Well, I don't know. You might not have a lot of choice, because Johnny and Romanidis are going to catch quickly in that case, and Phil Krause is not that much further behind them. So, and that car's being relatively nice and getting out of the way as well. So maybe Costantini will just take his time and cruise a little bit in behind these guys, but I don't think he can afford to wait around too much. It just shows, if we'd have had a full clean green race here at Barber, just the amount of traffic we would have seen.
Oh, don't even start. I mean, that could have been crazy. Both Jeff Drake and Brian Carey pulled to the side, and like the pair of Kawanda drivers, Johnny and Romanidis, just sliced their way on forward in front of these drivers, though. Andrew Marquez just passed by Seb Alexander, and now Costantini is right there. He's got no choice. He passes Marquez. Right, well, that interrupts the battle. But 1 final lap left here at the Alabama roller coaster. And with 1 oval race now on the horizon, we have the trip to Belle Isle beckoning. That is going to be, let's be honest, a blast. Road America, 10th of August. We know what America's National Park of Speed is like. And then close the season off, Ewan, at the Auto Club Speedway. A high-speed, high-stakes thriller around that oval. Winning here at Barber, it's a real confidence builder. It's a real tone maker, especially when you're 1, 2, and 3 heading on to the final lap.
Yeah, absolutely. Kawanda are going to be delighted with the way that the Barber Motorsports Park round has gone so far, if indeed things stay as they are. And with the topsy-turvy nature of the first part of this season, only 2 drivers have been in the top 5 twice. It means that we've got a very, very wide open championship going into the next round, and you'd imagine it will stay the same after the first oval as well. Still plenty to sort out. It's far from over after two very interesting races.
I tell you what, Jose Soria, he is not done in his quest to try and get back up into that top 5. Oh, he almost runs into the back of Christian Hillgard as we dive down out of turn 7 one final time. And Hillgard on the button, which Soria cannot respond against. He's not going to have time, you'd think. What a race it has been. Couple of cautions thrown into the mix, but rising through all the strategy, and a decisive strategy call from the drop of the green flag. It's the purple and orange that will emerge victorious here from the Alabama roller coaster. It's Michele Costantini that wins up front. The number 66 puts the rest of the field on notice with 4 races still left to go.
He did end up cruising behind those lap cars, indeed, and his last winning margin is going to be 1.2 seconds, but he managed the race very well in the end there, Michele Costantini. Last lap was a 10.7. His tyres were certainly getting old, the traffic was certainly getting in his way, but he still managed it all to bring home the win.
Some close battles behind. Josh Chin passed by Oster in the closing stages. Berryman's going to drop to a rather uncomfortable 14th, you'd think, given the speed that may have and should have delivered a finish up there inside of the podium spots. It's a lot of what ifs for him. Cam Dance on the back of Blake Reynolds. A couple of our reserve drivers going to get some decent points inside of the top 20. Oh, Alabama's treated us nicely, and I'm looking forward to the chat with the Coanda trio post-race, mainly to try and figure out, did they think the strategy was always going to go this way?
Well, as I said before, I personally don't believe so, but maybe they do. Maybe that was the plan all along, because with those 2 cautions, maybe not the first one, but especially the second one, that could have really set things up to go very, very badly wrong. And I think they did for Peter Berryman. In the end, 14th isn't even a reflection of his performance after the caution really set them back. But he will still look back to that moment in the race when it all changed.
And the trip to Iowa beckons in a week's time. It's not much time to rest on the laurels for these drivers. It'll be full focus on preparing once again. Let's not forget, IndyCar Butt Kicker iRacing qualifying series rumbling on Thursdays as well. It's a busy, busy time for all those involved. Let's take a look at the race results, and then we'll dive into our post-race coverage. Coanda 1 through 3. Costantini's margin shrinks in the closing laps, but it's still a decisive victory over Michael Gianni and Michael Romanidis. Phil Krause, that one mistake, I think, will be leaving the question of what if in the back of his mind. He finishes in front, though, of Christian Hillgard in the best of the satellite racing entries, while Jose Soria drops to 6th, maybe slightly caught out on strategy. Oscar Mangan, Pablo Espes, Javi Ross, and David Toth. The rest of the top 10. David Toth a little bit further behind his teammate than he would have expected to be. Before you get to Crane, Oster, and Chin. For Peter Berryman then down in 14th spot. Pascal Sticks 15th with Sam Carasala, Blake Reynolds, and then Cam Dance, Blaze Andrich, and Seb Alexander, the rest of the top 20. 1 lap down for Marquez, Taylor, Carey, and Munoz. 2 laps for Jeff Drake before you get down to the unfortunate used car lot, those involved in bigger issues. State, Malechka, Van der Sande, and Orman and Russell. For Steele, Burrell, and Nunez didn't get very far into the race. In the opening 10 laps, they were done and dusted. But a look top to bottom at our race results, and now just waiting for the drivers to come and have their chat with us. I can't blame them for taking their time. You in both qualifying and the race, it's a bit of a stressful time for them, isn't it?
It certainly is. There's no doubt about that, but we like to chat to them afterwards, and so hopefully we'll get to that chance in a few moments' time. To be fair, though, I'm not willing to count qualifying in that equation. They've had even a bit of a break between qualifying and the race.
Fair, but how much of a break do you think it really was for them? Did you see the chatter in the Discord?
Oh yeah, there was certainly no break for the fingers. There was a lot of chat going on in the in the Discord in between times. And as we were talking about just in the break as well, is it going to be about recovering from qualifying and relaxing and pacing around, or are they actually just going to sit straight back down and practice for the race again?
And you mentioned the stat, right? No driver has been in the top 5 multiple times this season so far. Just realized Michael Romanidis didn't even get a chance to race at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. He was part of those tangled up in the group shenanigans with, unfortunately, one of the cars also not taking off from the end of pit lane. He's fought back really well here to put himself onto the board. Let's take a look at what will be provisional championship standings. In fact, never mind that button not working the way that I was intending. And so just in the nick of time, I think Michele Costantini is going to save us as he stands by down on victory lane. Michele, congratulations. Talk us through that strategy, choosing to start on the primaries with some of your competition on the alternates around you. How confident were you feeling in the start of that race?
So, yeah, it was quite of a gamble, I would say, to start on the primaries. It was quite risky just to get run over by the alternates runner, but I think it was fine in the end. The caution definitely helped us for once. Once I'm quite happy that a caution came out, yeah, that was really good for us because the Drago guys and Peter out of contention, I think. That caution was really bad for them. Yeah, it would have been really interesting to see how it would have felt without the caution, because yeah, we're gonna be fuel saving and they were just going full push, so would have been quite interesting. But for once at least, I'm quite happy to see a caution that smiles at us.
So no complaints, got it. Talk to us about what's up next though, a trip over to Iowa, because let's be honest, it's a very different sort of a race to what we've had in the opening 2 rounds of this championship.
Yeah, definitely. It was gonna be very different, obviously. You'll probably see different faces up front. You know, you got Robert, you got a lot of the fast I5G guys as well on the ovals. So it's gonna be quite interesting, and I think for the road guys it'll be mainly about damage limitation in those rounds. But yeah, I feel quite good at ovals as well. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it, and yeah, quite happy about today, and hopefully I'll be happy about Iowa as well.
Well, this is what happens when you qualify well, so hopefully Thursday night goes better for you, Michele, and we'll see you on Saturday
Indeed.
to rumble in the cornfields.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Always great to have a chat with Michele Costantini. Let's drag in his teammate, Michael Johnny, standing by with Ewan O'Leary.
Hi, Michael. Good to have you with us. Second place here tonight at Barber. 1, 2, 3 for the team as well. You must be very pleased as a collective.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that was a bit unexpected. I mean, we're all extremely overworked as it is right now with every event that's going on. So having to switch between events, you know, daily basically is really difficult, at least for me. And yeah, like, I think all of us did a really good job with that. Behind the scenes, a few of our guys have been prepping a few of the rounds of IndyCar, so we were able to just hop in and start doing laps when we could, so it worked out quite well.
Yeah, we've talked about that ourselves. A lot going on at the moment, certainly. But in terms of this race, now, you know, motorsport's full of what-ifs and whatever, but, you know, the caution Michele just said to us, it was actually timed quite well for you guys. Do you sort of agree? What do you think would have happened if the race had stayed green, basically, throughout that race instead?
I think Michael and Michele would have been fine. I really couldn't save the amount of fuel they were saving with keeping the pace, like, reasonable. So those safety cars, I think, did more for me than maybe Michele or Michael, because it allowed me to stay out, I think, without getting too much of a time loss. But this might be the first time in my entire career where a safety car has come out not once but twice exactly when we needed it. So yeah, definitely happy with that result. It was a good one, and I definitely needed that.
Well, congratulations on the 1, 2, 3 as a team. Second place yourself as well, and thanks for chatting to us too.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
Thanks very much. Michael Jardy there. Second place tonight at Barber.
And well, we were hoping to see the smiling face of Michael Romanidis as cameras turned off, unfortunately. But Michael, good day overall. Like for Coanda, Michael Johnny just telling us maybe slightly unexpected. Talk us through it from your perspective, especially given that, you know, you didn't really get the chance to race back in the opening round of the season. There's the smile.
Yeah, hello. Well, yeah, it was pretty much ideal day for the team. Didn't do a great job in qualifying. Probably should have been a little bit further up. Obviously, the way the groups work, it's a little bit complicated at times. But well, I actually ran out of fuel on the run up to the line in my quali lap, so I was kind of fuel saving in the last sector of the quali lap, which was pretty much what was in store for the whole race. It was kind of the strategy we were going for in round 1 as well. But I would have gone for as well if I could race. and now it pulled off. We pulled it off with the cautions and stuff. It did become a little bit more complicated, but I think they fell at least in a okay spot for us, and obviously a couple of incidents behind left us pretty much breezing in the top 3 spots, so that's pretty decent.
Talk to us about your level of comfort heading off to Iowa next week. Michele said maybe we'll expect a few new faces at the front. Should we expect you to be battling up towards the front when we head short oval racing?
I'll have to see where the track goes. I guess it's going to be like 2 corners and like left, so I hope I get used to it pretty quickly, but yeah, probably a completely different scenario with the racing, and I think Iowa's pretty small oval, so it's probably going to be some stuff with the pit stops and getting lapped and stuff like that. So yeah, it's going to be exciting. Very busy summer, obviously, with plenty of IndyCar stuff, so yeah, we'll have to see how much brag we get for that as well, but yeah, it should be pretty exciting, and yeah, we'll see how an oval race is.
Congrats on a top 3 sweep for Coanda, Michael. We'll see you next week from Iowa.
Thank you very much.
Always great to be able to catch up with the drivers, see the smiling face as well in the case of Michael Romanidis. Eventually gets the camera turned on, and well, you know, he I don't want to say trepidation from the tone of his voice, Ewan, but the answer very much we're heading into the unknown. I have no idea what I'm in for when I go racing on July 27th here on VCO Esports and RaceSpot TV, qualifying to get underway a little closer to 4:45 as we get ready to go once again. Green flag, 5 p.m. UTC.
Yep, it will be a step into the unknown, I don't think just for him, but in fact for a number of the drivers going forward. Not everybody here is a pure IndyCar / oval racing nerd. There's a real variety of drivers here, and some are not used to the oval style of things. And don't forget that IndyCar in real life moving towards a sort of non-oval schedule these days, more and more.
What are you talking about?
Well, they have less and less, don't they?
Yeah, that's true.
It means that the new fans don't see as many. Anyway, that's not really the point. It's about these drivers and what they're used to. Some of them very much not used to ovals. Looking forward to seeing those guys, especially because we've seen a lot of them on ovals before. But what about the guys who don't normally race them?
Michele is one of those crossovers, but it's like the Gustavo Ariel, Diogo Pinto, Sam Coitert, some of those red line drivers that we missed today that we'll be looking forward to seeing next week and to see how they're going to get on. Here's just a reminder of the schedule. We'll see the halfway mark of the season next time out before Belle Isle, Road America, and Auto Club to round things off. But I think, Ewan, one thing that you said at the start of the day holds very true at the end of the day as well. It's going to take us going into those final rounds of the championship to really know who our contenders are.
Yeah, I would say that only Costantini and Kraus have really come out the first 2 rounds with any semblance of a good score that you could work towards a championship. For the others, there's still time to catch up because plenty of things can go wrong for everybody at Iowa. After that, I think we'll really start to take stock and look at who's in contention.
Right, it's time to say goodbye from the Alabama roller coaster, but don't forget, it's a busy summer of IndyCar racing, and we'll be back here on VCO Esports and at RaceSpot TV next Saturday, 5 p.m. Green flag drops, 5 p.m. UTC that is. Short track racing in the cornfields of Iowa. Should be great. Can Coanda repeat their dominance from this wonderful racing facility? Only time will tell. It was an interesting 80 laps. Couple of cautions interspersed, and round 2 of the VCO IndyCar Challenge powered by Open Wheels officially in the books. On behalf of our team behind the scenes, Ewan O'Leary, alongside myself, Arjuna Kankipati, thanks for your company. We'll see you next week for round 3 to reach the halfway mark of our summer of IndyCar.